Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural broadcast of Dash 28 Live. I'm your host, Mike Atkins. With me here in the booth is Alex Chavez and Jake Cherapika.
Hey.
I think everybody knows you guys. Jake is our editor and one of the founders of Dash 28, and Alex is one of our staff writers and also former U.S. Master. So he's here to give us some tactical analysis, and Jake is here to give us some color today.
We'll try.
Yeah. As we check out this match going on between Chris Fisher and Cyle Dino Lord Pool, they are going to be playing Dominate via Universal Battle as part of the first round of the Call to Arms Universal Battle tournament that's going on, and they've already set up their table and they finished their deployments. So we're going to have them go through their lists real quick, starting with Chris. So just one moment while I bring up Chris's list, and we'll run through it for him. There we go. All right, Chris, what do you take?
Can I make this bigger? I've never played ogres before, but I play against them a little bit, and so I took a bunch of stuff that annoys me, mostly siege breakers and boomers and Grokkagamok, because that guy's a punk. So my list is kind of built around a League of Rordia list I've been trying lately, which had a lot of halfling braves and then some shooters with honor guard hordes to kind of be the punch. So what I did here is I started with 4 regiments of Red Goblin rabble. They're kind of my chaff and cheap drops. And then I jumped down into 2 hordes of boomers. That's my shooters. And like I mentioned, siege breakers are a little bit annoying, so I took 2 hordes of siege breakers. I think that's also pretty good because we're playing Dominate for round 1. And then for the little bit faster punch, I took 2 hordes of the Ogre Chariots. I did not realize that they were as wide as they are. Deploying kind of threw me off a little bit, but so I took them. They're cool. They seem cool anyway. And then now we got some characters. I got 2 Ogre Warlocks. Both have Lightning Bolt and Drain Life. So Lightning Bolt 3, Drain Life 5. One of them has the Inspiring Talisman. I really think I'm hoping that Drain Life will be really useful with the Siege Breakers and the Defense 6, and then also just giving me a couple extra wounds in combat, which is going to be useful as when we see Kyle's list later. And then, of course, like I said, I took Grokkagamok because he's a punk.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. And now we're going to swap over to Kyle's list.
All right.
Real quickly, one moment.
So while he's swapping over the lists, Chris gave me what I guess you could call a challenge for round 1, and then I responded. But he basically said that I can't call myself Dino Lord if I don't play the real dinosaur army. So he challenged me to salamanders, and I challenged him to ogres. Because
so wait a minute. So you guys picked each other's armies? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I told Chris I would only accept if he chose the army I played, and then he said it'd only be gentlemanly if I chose his army. So I challenged him to ogres, and then he challenged me to salamanders. So we chose what the other person has to play. And I'll tell you, I don't have a lot of salamander playtime at all, of any way, shape, or form. So the salamander army, the Gekota Warrior Regiment is actually because when I was done building the list, I had 105 points left over, and they're 95. So they're in there because I had the points. The 2 ancient regiments, I mean, who doesn't like defense 6 inspiring infantry? The 3 tyrant hordes is the core. It's where I get my unlocks and all my fun stuff in the list. I've never really used tyrants. I've been picked up by tyrants before, so much like Chris, I just picked the thing that scares me and then took 3 of it. And then I'm a real big fan of shooting chaff. The more I play 3rd edition, the elf army I'm working on is really starting to fall in love with shooting chaff. So Ember Sprites hit everything. They scout, they chaff, they're cheap, and they're fearless, which is great for chaff because there's nothing a goblin player hates more than having their stuff wavered all game. So that takes care of the first page. And then I took 2 Lycilodons because 85 points for a shooting platform that also scores and has melee is great. And no one triples their attacks against them because they're monsters, not war machines. And then 2 Clan Lords on Fire Drake because they have wings and they go flappy, flappy, fast, fast, which is something ogres don't like.
All right.
That's the whole list.
Awesome.
Mace of Crushing and Blade of Slashing because there's the other 10 points I had extra at the end of list building.
Yeah, nobody's ever going to ask why you put a Blade of Slashing or Crushing on a flying monster.
Nope, no one's ever going to question it.
Nope. Awesome. Well, thanks for the rundown, guys. Now I'm going to swap over and show everybody the table that you have set up, and you guys can talk us through where you've deployed which units. All right, so is that, I think that's Chris on the top half of the table, right?
Correct. Yeah, Chris won the roll-off.
Okay, so Chris ran the roll-off. He picked the sides, and Chris picked the top. And now, so Chris, do you want to start like on the work like left to right and walk through the units for
Sure.
us?
Yeah. First, I will say that we're playing Dominate. So what is going on with this building right in the center of the map? But we randomized it. We rolled and got, I think it's Epic Dwarf map 10. So there's a building right in the center. When I looked at that and then I won the roll off, I chose the top because it seems like I might have a little bit more room to move into the center from that top right side, basically.
Okay.
So on the far left, I have one of my warrior chariot hordes. So I have 2 of these. One has Pathfinder, the other is naked. This is the naked one. And then they've got a Red Goblin Rabble regiment behind them. Moving over, I have Grakagamok. He's very inspiring, so he can just reach the goblins and the chariots there on the other side of the building. And he's covering next to him a goblin regiment and a siegebreaker horde. Moving down a little bit more, I have another goblin regiment and another siegebreaker horde, followed by a warlock. This is the non-inspiring warlock. And then we got boomers, warlock with inspiring, and boomers again, followed by the Pathfinder, warrior chariot horde, and some lonely goblins off on the side.
All right, great. And Kyle, same thing. Start up here on the left.
Yeah, so I put both my dragons down there to try and force a flank, I guess. The red dragon is Blade of Slashing. The blue dragon is Mace of Crushing. I'll probably forget both of them, so it's irrelevant. We have a Tyrant Horde, and then there's Ember Sprites behind it, and you'll see that for all 3 Tyrant Hordes. The Ember Sprites have Scout, so those are going to act as my screening chaff. Okay. There's 2 Lycilodons. They're there because I didn't know where else to put them. As we keep going to the right, another Tyrant with Ember Sprites in the middle again, and then an Ancient Regiment. That's one of the inspiring units. It's sort of there just to anchor. My dragons probably won't be back here, so I need something to inspire my army. As we move to the right, another Tyrant, another Ember Sprite, and then the other Ancient holding down the right flank. And then Lonely off hiding behind the woods is the sole unit with Pathfinder, the Gecko Tau Warriors. And then something of note, the 3 Tyrant Hordes have the fire effigy thing, so I can once per game re-roll D3 fails to wounds, which is going to be helpful, I think, against siege breakers.
Awesome. So what terrain heights are you guys playing with? Just so we know what can see.
We're going to do U.S. Masters. So hills height 3, forest height 9, so nothing can see over them. Houses height 8, so a dragon, for example, could see over a house if it's on a hill. The hills height 3, obstacles height 2, and I think we're going to play the field and the pond as flat, is what we came up with, just flat. And that little rock in the middle is just the middle marker. It's not terrain, guys.
Okay, cool. I was wondering what that was. At first, I was like, did someone forget to deploy an individual or something?
No, it's just a marker, so we know where the middle is at all times.
All right, great. Well, thanks for walking us through that. I'm going to wish you guys good luck, and you're going to go do your scout moves and then roll for first turn, right?
That's correct.
All right, well, good luck. And
Good
we will
luck.
talk to you guys after the match.
Thanks.
Bye.
Right.
Good luck.
All right. So, what the hell? They're playing Dominate with a building in the middle of the board. What is?
Yeah, very, very interesting. It's a unique situation. Like
I
said,
was
think that
intrigued by, Kyle said he's going to use a scout move to push his Ember Sprites forward for screening, but, Chris does have boomers, right? And Warlock, so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I would assume Kyle's not going to move those Ember Sprites ahead of the screening Tyrants, but he might, in which case boomers will take them off in a turn, right?
Yeah, but that's kind of their job, I think, is to take that initial
To take
bump,
that one
right?
turn?
Yeah,
Okay.
you want boomers to shoot those and not your tyrants, I would assume. But again, yeah, we'll see what he's trying to do with this push, right? One of the things that's going to be really big here, of course, as always, is who wins the roll for first turn. Obviously, they have two pretty aggressive armies, so one thing I always look for to see who wants to really press the attack and press the advantage. And I expect kind of both players to be pretty aggressive. With the hill, or sorry, the building in the middle, if Chris is able to kind of push the right flank and kind of wrap around, he might be able to get some charges, especially with his chariots and whatnot. So, I'd be really interested to see how that plays out. Obviously we see the players have kind of stacked each other's flanks, right? So, Chris is heavy on the right side, and Kyle obviously is a little heavy on the left side. So I'd like to, I'd imagine they're going to be aggressive on those flanks going early. That really, I think, where you could look to get the advantage. But it's a very unique situation. I'm really curious to see how the players handle this limited terrain piece, and I think Chris has rightfully put his slow units around there, and kind of we'll have to wait and see how that goes.
It'll be interesting to see how that centerpiece also blocks line of sight, because Kyle's fast stuff currently is on that left side. So, Chris could very easily kind of push in on that right side and use that building to try to avoid those dragons for vital turns.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think looking at Army list alone, a couple of things that come up to me is one is Kyle's list is very light on inspiring. So, and not only that, but he's put both inspiring sources in the corner on the left side. So.
The ancients inspire.
The ancients. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so the ancients.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, so he's got in the middle then. So there's really, yeah, you're right. So most units should be pretty good. Maybe it's the left side that you'll have issues with, like inspiring on I think
The geckos.
Yeah,
right.
the geckos, and if the dragons fly off, then they'll have issues as well. But
all right, it looks like Kyle won the roll off and has elected to go first. He's moving his Ember Sprites around.
That's pretty big. Yeah.
There you go.
So, yep, there it is. So at this time, I'm going to bring in a special guest for a few minutes to chat with us about this tournament that these guys are playing in. Everybody, welcome Mr. Dan Miner.
Woo!
Hey guys.
Dan?
What up, Dan?
So you're one of the TOs of Call to Arms, is that right?
Yeah, Adam actually brought me in the last event. Definitely not as big as this one, but yeah. So basically, I've got a lot of experience running tournaments for like years and years, like 14, 16 years, I think. So I've got a lot of experience with matching software and stuff like that, and logistics, and I've gotten pretty good at making up Google Forms and massaging Google Sheets. So that's kind of what I was brought in for. So Adam is definitely the main driver for it, and so that's why we're using the Northern Kings scoring system that we're using. That's actually popularized by their club. I guess it's a nice, good excuse to play test a lot of the kinks and bugs out of it. Although it seems to be pretty solid. I like how it's an always positive scoring system. There's nobody's going to get crushed into being a 0. But there's still incentives to continue to fight for mitigating how bad your loss is by beating up on stuff and trying to score objectives in multitudes of different ways. So yeah, it's 146 players, 73 tables.
Yeah, so technically the biggest King's War tournament now, I think, in history, right? As cool as that sounds, it's very unique. I think what's really great about this tournament is that you guys have kind of taken what is not an ideal world situation and try to make something out of it. I mean, I think most of us in the situation that we're planning to go to tournaments the next few months that aren't going to happen anymore. So this is cool to give a home to those people and to get our King's War fix, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I'm really enjoying Universal Battle. It's actually a pretty good platform for doing what we do. And in fact, in a lot of ways, it's actually more precise than playing the game on the table.
Yeah, it can be.
Definitely.
So tell me a little bit about running the virtual game like this. What's the format that you guys are doing this? Like, how often do people play? How do you do the matchups?
So matchups are done pretty much like a standard tournament. So it was totally random for the first round, except for we allowed challenges for the first time. We had 9 people challenging players. This is actually one of the challenge games we're watching now. And we've got but you get 2 weeks to play your game. So when you're matched up, you have to go through and find your opponent, set up a messaging group with them, and arrange your game within that 2-week window. So, and then we're looking at, I think we're going to do 6 rounds, even though technically we have enough players to need 8 to get an undefeated player. But there's enough differences in the scoring that I think we can get a tie break to work. I think at 2 weeks per round, 8 weeks is now stretches 2 months, and I think that becomes a bit long.
Yeah, that's very long. And so, and one of the things that I find really interesting about this is from one round to the next, the players can play basically whatever they want, right? You don't have to have models. You can pick armies. You can pick lists. You can even pick your points level. Isn't that right? There isn't a set points level for these games.
That's exactly right. Yeah, whatever you and your opponent agree upon. The Northern King system has different scoring points. So you get a different amount on your kill points depending on what level of game you're playing and how many models you killed. So it kind of adjusts and scales for the different points levels.
Fantastic. And how are you guys collecting all of the results from this? Like, are you keeping track of who's playing what factions from one round to the next and the point sizes and all that?
Yeah, we've got a Google form that people submit their scores to, and one of the questions we ask is how many points you played and what armies both you and your opponents played. So there's a couple of things that we get to do with that. We want to do best in faction, but we're going to make it so that you only can get the best in faction if you played that army for at least 4 games during the event. So it allows, because of the flexibility, right? We're not making people have to play it all the time, but they have to play the majority of their games in that faction. Plus, it allows we can use because the biggest problem is when we're putting in the attrition points in a scoring system like a tabletop TO. If somebody's playing 2,300 points and they killed 2,000 points worth of stuff, that shouldn't be more valuable than killing 2,000 points of stuff in a 2,000 point game.
Yeah.
So part of getting the game size is that we can calculate a percentage attrition and use that actually as a tie break.
Oh, interesting. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I've looked at tabletop TO before, and I found it a little limiting for the kind of stuff that I usually do with WarScore, but I definitely like some of the features of it. So when this tournament's over, you're going to have all this data, obviously, that you've collected of like what game sizes people chose to play, who picked which factions, who changed factions over the course of the event, and all that. Do you guys have any plans for what you might do with all that stuff afterwards?
Not really. I think we were more using it in a way that we thought would be best for trying to figure out who wins different things.
Okay.
That said, that we've already had people asking about trying to get win percentages of which armies and stuff like that. So that's something I might actually try and massage my Google spreadsheet to give.
Okay.
And then I have
Yeah.
no problems of giving the data out afterwards. I'd have to talk to Adam about it though too, because obviously it's not just me either.
Sure. Yeah. Brenton loves writing up meta-analysis articles, and since there's kind of a dearth of events right now, it would be great if you guys would be willing to share some of that with
It does look like they're going into shooting, so I can take a back seat for a little bit if you guys want to talk about what's happening.
Sure. Yeah. So Cyle has moved his dragons, one of his dragons, way up on the side over there, and basically just slid everything else forward. And it looks like now he's going down the line, doing the shooting with his probably his ember sprites that he's moved up into range.
Yeah.
Looks like they're full whiffed. Yep.
Just little like kind of pitter shooting here, just something to do really. Like I said, the big thing here is the dragon coming the left flank, being really aggressive, kind of like we talked about earlier. I guess I really like Kyle's position right now. I think he's playing pretty well here, taking advantage of that first turn. Be curious to see Chris's response to this, especially that red dragon. I don't really see an answer for that coming up other than kind of a sort of a stalling tactic. So be really curious to see kind of Chris's response to this.
Well, and the usual answer that ogres have versus flying is those boomers, which are so far away from where the dragons are, right? So they're, you know, the dragons basically can control that left flank.
Absolutely, and that's Cyle can do whatever he wants there. He can go, he can try to get rear charges next, move further. He can, start attacking stuff. It's really not a good spot for the ogres to be in. I kind of feel bad for Chris because I mean, this is I've been in situations as well. I've dabbled with ogres a little bit, and this is known as kind of one of their bigger weaknesses is the inability to deal with these flying monsters. Just the lack of individuals and stuff like that. We'll definitely have to see how that plays out.
Yeah. So Alex, if you were Chris looking at this red dragon on your flank with nothing over there but chariots and some goblins, what do you do here? Do you just send the chariots forward to get out of its charge arc and know they're going to be up on the hill invisible? You just abandon that flank? Do you turn to face? Like what's the right play there?
Sure, I definitely abandon this flank. I don't know if it's the right play, but those chariots, the problem, those hordes are so expensive. I don't know if I want to quite throw them away first. The way Chris is unemployed, they're kind of now really, really doomed. He might be able to back up with the chariots and kind of get the dragon in his front arc again. If you can do that, that's something I would probably look to do because just want to waste time basically. You want that dragon to not, you don't want him charging turn 2. You want him waiting another turn or 2 to kind of get the positioning. So if that's what he can do, that's what I would do. Just kind of make sure the dragon doesn't really want to charge in the front. So the more turns you spend kind of giving him nothing but front charges, he's going to kind of keep posturing and repositioning. So that's what I'd look to do if I was Chris. Probably either just doing a pivot on those chariots and just getting the rabble out in front of them and kind of making sure they get ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess as Chris deployed, he did put the boomers kind of central to the table there, and then Cyle responded by putting both the dragons all the way over to the side. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. We will keep an eye on that. That might end up being the big difference in this map. This very aggressive first round move with that red dragon.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle's got a smart army in the sense that he's got a lot of drops. So you always want those dragons to drop last, of course. So when you outdrop your opponent and you have the last 2 drops of 2 big dragons, that's kind of going to mean they're going to maximize their usage. So really like what Kyle's doing here. I really like his list in general. I was going to comment earlier that like I see his list and I kind of see a little bit of Eric Trowbridge's list in this one, the one he, Mr. Master right now, Eric Trowbridge, his orc list is very similar to this. I think he had kind of 3 kind of big hitting hordes in the tyrants. He's got the chaff swarms in front, and then he's got some kind of regiment support. So, I see a lot of that core of that list. I know obviously they're pretty typical sparring partners, so I'm sure there's some inspiration drawn in when he built this list. So, again, we're kind of pay attention to how those things work out.
Chris getting started with the bottom of first turn movement here. Probably going to want to capitalize on that weaker flank on the right side there, where Cyle hasn't deployed a lot of stuff. Kyle's really threatening him on the left. I suspect Chris will feel like he needs to answer on the right to at least, keep the pressure on him somewhere.
Definitely, yeah. He's got to be pretty aggressive here. I'd be really shocked if he doesn't push his models forward as far as he can on that side. He really needs to, I'd say, move up, shoot the swarms, and at least put some pressure on those units in the back. One other thing that's interesting in this matchup too is that the tyrants have wild charge, which I think is going to be a pretty big deal here when you're talking about 2 units that are at the same speed, having that D3 charge range. I believe they're D3, right? Yeah, wild charge D3. So when you play against a wild charge D3, it's one of those rules that you kind of have to assume the opponent's going to roll 3, right? So if I, when I put my units away from you, if I don't put him in those extra 3 inches back, then if you roll that 3, it really exposes myself. So, the thing I like about wild charge is that your opponent has to kind of assume that you're going to roll 3 on that, and that gives you a lot more space to kind of push and be aggressive and dictate board space. So we'll see how that comes into play here. But I'd like to see it be a really big factor here. We'll see if it does end up being that way or not.
Great. Dan, are you also playing in Call to Arms?
Yes, I am. I lost a very close game to Steve Hildrew first round.
Nice. Have you guys announced what round 2 scenario will be yet?
No, we don't announce scenarios until we actually do the matchups. I actually am not even privy to what we're going to play this round, so I can't even spoil that for you.
And is that something that Adam knows? Does he work out in advance, or is he rolling it randomly?
I don't really know for sure. I get the sense that he's figuring that out the morning of. because we've had times where we had to wait to get the appropriate scoring score sheet out for it. So I believe he's actually leaving it as a surprise for himself until the morning of, and then kind of randomly rolling for it.
So who all is the team running this thing? It's you and Adam, and who else?
Tom Annis and Elliot Morris. So it's an international TO crew as well.
It's great. And you guys have people from all over the world playing, is that right?
Yeah, we've got we've got a lot of Aussies. I think there's like 17 or 18 Aussies.
Wow.
North America is definitely the largest group. I think there's around 50 to 60 of them. UK obviously being the second biggest, probably about 40-ish. And then the rest are scattered all about. We've got some from Spain, Germany, France. I think there's one from Singapore. I can't remember where he's from, but it's definitely in the Southern Asian region.
It's awesome. I mean, one of the things I think is interesting, and I want to kind of expand upon one of the points Mike brought up earlier, which is, you make your army up every week, right? You kind of pick what you want, and you can do anything you want, because normally when you play game of Kings of War, especially at a tournament level, you have this sort of barrier to entry where you have to actually build the models and put them on the table, right? So one thing I want to ask you, which is, are you guys keeping a database at all as far as the army list that people are turning? Because I think, given the sort of blank check of creating whatever army list you want, some of the, I'll call it, cheesier style armies are very doable and playable. Is there any way that's gonna be something people can reference, or something the players keeping track of themselves? How's that working out?
So we're not tracking it. We're not asking people to submit any army lists to us. There is a thread in the Universal Battles where some players, I think it's a small percentage, maybe 10 to 20, are actually posting what their list they did played, what the results are, and kind of using it as a kind of a log for themselves to be able to track progress. And actually, I think a lot of people are ended up using this as a method of tuning their next season's tournament army. Being able to
Yeah.
tweak stuff really makes it easy to do that. So
Cool. Yeah, I hope that if you're playing this, I'd say make sure you save your armies, because I think, especially the end of the tournament, you see kind of the more defeated players. Be curious to see what armies they end up going through to kind of get to that point. It'd be really interesting to see, at least for data people like me.
yeah, that might be something that we consider maybe for the next round. Having people email lists and stuff just becomes much more stuff to track as well too, right? So, but it definitely is very interesting because I've been hopping in a bunch of the games and I've been seeing a lot of armies that you don't typically see a lot. I've seen a couple of big wins out of Ratkin slave armies, which kind of surprises me a little bit. So I'd like to see what those lists look like.
That's awesome. Yeah, can't wait to see that. Just to comment real quick, I catch us up a bit. Chris has pushed that right side pretty heavily. I see. Basically, the chariots look like they're kind of pushed up within charge range of those ancients.
Are those the chariots with Pathfinder?
They are, so
Because there's a nice potential for a hill charge there.
absolutely, and then they're going to have extra thunders from that hill. They're going to do all sorts of damage. So that, I was expecting, as Chris is definitely pushing the pace here. As good as ancients are, they're definitely a little bit slower when comparison to the tyrants. With their 6 plus D3 wild charge. With the ancients, you're only looking at speed 4. So although they're a great unit, a unit like a chariot is a great counter to them, where you're looking to just blow right through them like they're not even there. So be really curious to see how that does end up here.
Definitely.
Okay,
Yeah, he certainly seems to be doing what kind of what we expected, is that he's pushing up very aggressively on the other side of the table.
It'll be interesting to see what he does with the chariots on his left flank, because I think that's where the tough choice comes, right? And it's clear he probably also is having a tough time deciding, because he's just using it, waiting to last for it, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I think it's going to be a big key swinging point in this game as to how many turns that chariot horde lives, right? Because if Kyle goes in with both dragons and gets rid of it on turn 2, that's going to free them up. But as long as they're at least over there, kind of staring the dragons down for another turn, that'll hold them up. He definitely doesn't want those dragons flying around his back.
Yeah, absolutely. The chariots, I mean, like I said, they're pretty much a can opener for Chris, and so looks like he is now moving the chariots back, kind of like what I suspected he might. If he can pull him back enough to get that dragon in his front arc, he can kind of really, you can give the dragon sort of the issue of having to, decide what they want to do. Well, now as soon as I say that, it looks like he's undoing his movements a little bit. Maybe just
Did
testing
you-
the arc. So
Did you ever get access to be able to click on units for arcs?
To check the arcs. No, I didn't ask him for that. I might next.
yeah, I mean, you can see, you can kind of see. I think from there, my eyeball always tells me that the dragon's in the front there, but
Yeah, it looks like it.
yeah,
That's
it
Kyle.
looks, yeah. So again, that's I like that positioning. That's it's Kyle. Let's put the kind of ball back in Kyle's court here, where Kyle can either spend more time trying to position around the chariots, or just try to take a front charge, which he doesn't want to do. I just haven't suspect he want to do.
For army list building, did they know which armies each other were playing? Because I'm wondering how finely tuned these lists were to face the specific faction. Because it's sort of, if they knew ahead of time, it sort of reminds me of what you could do in Malifaux. Because in Malifaux, you know which faction you play against before you build your army, and there's certain units that specialize against certain armies. And so, like Kyle's list seems like all comer style, but those two heavy flyers are particularly nasty against ogres. So I wonder, did they know? Is that how that worked?
Well, they picked the army for each other, so they definitely knew.
Right.
Yep. Oh,
Thinking
okay.
about the dragon going in there.
Yeah, I think.
Is he probably looking for a double?
Does Chris, I believe now, just seeing what's going to happen?
Yeah, I
double-
was just a
okay.
proxy. Yeah.
Yeah, Chris might be trying to make it so that the you're right there. There wasn't enough room for a double charge.
two dragons to get in. Right.
Or,
Of
or
course.
maybe not.
Yeah, no, I think he looks like he decided there was enough room, and he didn't want that. Is my guess there.
Yeah.
Again, so much the game comes down to this sort of flank and how fast it falls. So, can't blame Chris for kind of making sure that the angles here look good. You kind of have to ogres. That's your only weapon, is just making sure you give don't give away too many charges at once.
All right, so I do have access to the arcs now. We can see.
One interesting difference that I noticed as I was looking through their list and their positioning is, Chris does have a fairly good lead when it comes to unit strength, especially when you consider that right flank versus the left flank, because so many points of Kyle's are invested in those unit strength 1 dragons.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure Chris is aware of that and wanting to take advantage of it. But like, if you look at that right flank, that's almost all of Kyle's unit strength just on Chris's right flank.
Yeah.
I agree, and if you look at the center marker, there is, technically more room on that right side of the middle to get more unit strength in, right? So, Chris could easily fit all those units in there and score them all. So, definitely a threat that, again, Kyle's going to want to make sure he doesn't just kind of ignore that unit. He needs to get there eventually with some units and deal with them. So.
One interesting thing I think worth noting too, when we're looking at the difference between just army list, Pat Zoro Allen wrote a Salamander article that basically made our tier system, wrote our tier system for Salamanders on -28, and looking at the tiers represented in Kyle's army, we have Ancients, which we have an S tier. We have Gecko Warriors, which are an A tier, Tyrants, which are an A tier, Clan Lord and Fire Drake, A tier, and then the Ember Sprites, which are in B tier, and the Lycodons, also B tier. So it's a fairly, unsurprising, right? A fairly competitively built army.
For sure, yeah. I mean, definitely. I kind of agree with Pat Allen's tier list here. I don't know if S tier. I don't know if Ancients are quite S tier. We'll kind of wait and see if that comes
right.
out. But I mean, the thing about Ancients is, again, they're not. They are irregular, right? So you can't build an army of just them. So only a couple. I think 2 is about the most you kind of expect to see. Maybe 3 if you had some kind of crazy idea. But no, I agree. This is a very competitive list, and yeah, well, I think we'll kind of wait and see how these units kind of work together to kind of work out. But yeah, I recommend anyone check out the article if you're playing, kind of see how these units work together, and as far as different tiers. I mean, I think there's a kind of knee-jerk reaction. Look at the tier list and think, oh, units in the B tier. I mean, it's just crap or it doesn't work, and that's definitely not true at all. I mean, there's
there's clear roles for them, right?
Yeah, there's roles that your A tier units can't do. So it's
these Ember Sprites are a great example, right? I mean, they're
I absolutely agree.
Yeah, they're doing what Kyle needs them to, right?
Completely, yeah. You look at them on paper, you think they suck. They're right, but they're gonna do anything. They're gonna die, and that's exactly what you need them to do. They need to die at the right time without being wavered, and you have little pot shots with them, and then you just kind of get in the way, and they're quick enough with their scouting to kind of get there.
Mhm.
So, I completely agree. I think it's it's a starting point. I think especially when we look at the tier system, it's kind of a hey, this is where they kind of look like on paper. This is where they kind of fit. It's up to the players kind of take those units and make them work. So don't look too much into it. At the same time, I think it's a really great starting point, especially for newer players. If you're watching this video and you're not sure, those are things you want to pay attention to. So,
one of the great examples, Fred from Giant Dwarf podcast used Undead that almost half his choices I had in the D or C tier, right? But he still finished at best of the rest, going 3-2, and in like top 25%, even though most of his army was what we would call uncompetitive, right?
Sure, yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's there's the scale of A to I guess S to D is much lower in scale as opposed to like people that have history in it's called Warhammer's other games, right? The
Mhm.
balance has typically been much more varied. So units in general are very balanced. The better player is still going to win, I think, most of the time. So that's I think one of the things we all love about Kings of War is that it has that internal balance within the game.
Right.
You'll see a lot, and then that's why I like tournaments like this, where you can kind of do whatever you want with the army. If you run an army of is S tier, is this unit really S tier or A tier? Let me just take an army of nothing.
Let's try it, right?
And just see what happens, right? Exactly. So I think it's a really great experiment in that sense. I think this tournament you guys are doing, Dan, and at least I'm really glad it exists. And I'm a fan. I'm watching it and keeping close result, close tallying results. So I'll kind of see more.
Yeah, we'll
All right,
say Universal Battle is not normally my thing, but hearing Dan talk about this tournament and then watching this game has me thinking, maybe I got to get in on this.
Well, if you want a game, Jake, just let me know.
I might take you up on that.
Yeah, same. I did those comments.
Okay, it looks like Chris may have finally decided where he wants to put those chariots. It looks like he's positioned them along with the chaff in front to avoid getting double charged by dragons next turn. And now he's moving the last of his siege breakers with a red goblin screen as well.
Yeah, it looks like Chris is taking up more position in the middle of the board. He's gonna have to deal with that chaff, but he's got his own chaff as well, those goblins, and this is where goblins kind of shine a little bit here, because if you're dealing with these swarm units, they don't want to see these kind of higher nerve regiment units because they can't really do damage to them, and so they're just gonna have a kind of slap fight, so to speak, back and forth, that one of the goblins should eventually win. So even though the goblins cost roughly the same points, just have a kind of a more of a presence on the board, and we'll see how that kind of plays out. So let's see, are we over to Kyle's turn now, or
Not yet. I think Chris might still
Okay.
be deciding what to do with Brock.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think Chris has even shot yet.
Oh, okay.
No.
You're right. He's gonna have some boomer shots. I expect that mill unit of swarms.
Some lightning bolts
right.
from the warlocks too.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And some lightning bolts, yep. Yeah, he took an extra special long time figuring out exactly where he wants that chariot horde. But I mean, it's the right thing to do, because if he positions that wrong and two dragons pop those chariots in turn one, he's in a lot of trouble.
Right. Absolutely. I think again, this kind of does what we talked about, which is it's just making that you want one dragon to get in front. You don't want that unit to die. So it's basically that chariot nonetheless is gonna die. It's just the question is how long can you make it take your opponent, right? And that's an important, I think, tactical discussion to have with yourself every game. You don't need to win every flank and every zone, and if you do, that's great, but it's okay to lose a flank. If you think about these dragons, there's 300 points of peace. You have a unit of tyrants behind them, that's even more points. There's a lot of points really committed to what Chris has, what is a rabble and some chariots. So kind of the longer he can wait here, in theory he should be winning the rest of the board. So it's really a smart kind of game here where he's doing it, and Chris is kind of making do with what he can here, as far as this train setup and what is an option. So I like it. I like Chris's response here. I think it's about as good as you can expect. And I even like Gakamak kind of.
I was going to say Gakamak's a nice little utility piece there that he's positioned to because if he hits a dragon, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's gonna hurt very. So and sorry, I said Gakamak. It should be Grakagamak. My fault. So he's positioned to kind of countercharge whatever is going to end up in that area. So again, good play from Chris here. You expect that from a top tier player. For those that don't know these players very well, if you're internationals like that, they're both top tier master players. Chris, he's from the Mid-Atlantic region. He's finished first in our rankings last year. He went to the Masters this year, didn't do as well as his rank maybe suspected, but he did pretty well, and he plays very well in general. Very tight player, clean player. And then Cyle, I think,
almost won Vanguard last year. Lost it due to Alex Chavez's amazing paint job.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, me and Chris are very neck and neck in many terms. I know Chris very well. I know Cyle very well, and I know he's going to look to play a very clean, tight game here. So that's kind of what he's known for. So
looks like he started shooting with his boomers at some Ember Sprites.
I see that. And
4 wounds.
Here we get to see the infamous Universal Battle number generator here in action. Get ready for some wonky dice, guys. I don't know who coded this thing, but I swear it's going to be all over the place.
The more wonky it is, the more I think that actually makes good for tournament practice when you get stupid, crazy dice on the real table too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's hilarious. So it looks like 8 wounds
Speaking
coming out.
Spicy dice, that's was that 16? And then 8 wounds.
That's not far off expected because they were not cover shots. The first one was in cover.
Okay.
Yep. From his own goblins. Yep.
So that's a total of 11 wounds on that Ember Sprite. So that should pop them pretty easily.
He popped him, I think, right? Yeah. Or he hasn't rolled nerve yet, but he's going to. So, looks like it's
they're still inspiring range.
They are inspired, yes.
Yeah, but still, snake slice.
Snake slice.
So now moving on to what he's going to do with his lightning bolts. Looks like he's probably going to shoot the tyrants, I believe.
Yeah, the tyrants are only defense 4. They're the soft target.
Yeah, it's a great target for lightning bolt.
Yep, makes sense.
I know we talked a lot about Kyle's list, but I'm not experienced with ogres, but I like Chris's list quite a bit too because he has just enough shooting to be a threat, but not so much he overinvest it. He's got those long range threats. The chariots, hit really hard, have just enough nerve to not get punked really easily, and then he's got the siege breakers to back stuff up. It's a solid list.
No, it's great. The chariots are not bad. I mean, I know they weren't very popular at the Masters this year. I don't think I saw many chariots, if any, to be honest. But I think I like about the ogre chariots is they're very specialized role, right? They weren't that hybrid shooting, combat unit that you saw out of most other chariots. So they have it well. They have good nerve. They have not as big a flank nowadays because this is the new kind of chariot horde size, right? So you get to see that in action. So I'm looking forward to it. I think they'll do really well for Chris's team.
Rabble does a lot also to strengthen up the ogres. Just giving some cheap drops. Stuff to hold flanks, grab objectives, different things like that, while your ogres can focus on just beating face in.
Definitely, yeah. It's a good list. I think a great list out of Chris for not being an ogre player. This is definitely a good effort.
Talking about UB dice, that lightning bolt just whiffed hard.
Yes, it did.
6 dice, no 4s. Yeah.
Not a single 4. Yep. There's the nerve check, I think. Yep. And there you have our first casualty. First blood goes over to Chris, huh?
Yep.
1 wound to the tyrants, though, out of 2 lightning bolt 6s is pretty rough.
Yeah, that's not
most definitely. Yeah.
All right, going in the top of turn 2, back over to Cyle. So what do we? So what's?
Kyle's got these geckos on his right side, hiding behind the woods, obviously because they know that the second they pop their face in, he's going to get overrun. But they're positioned in a way that they can't see anything, right? Like, I'm surprised he didn't back up a little bit so he could see off to the center a little bit.
I think his plan with them is to be ready to push up at any moment, right? So, should a flank be presented there, should someone ignore them, they're going to push up into that position.
Looks like Kyle is rolling some wild charges here just to see what he's got to work with.
Yeah, I see that.
Yep.
So,
that one tyrant unit getting the 15 is going to be a bit spicy.
Interesting. Yeah. So does that give them range to the boomers? I
think
don't imagine
does.
It would, but
let's see.
Yes, it does.
6, 9, 12.
Does it really?
It does. If he can get around the goblins.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a big deal. That's wild charge for you, right? I don't know if Chris kind of assumed maybe that's the closest he could get, and it didn't need to worry about it. But
well, in order, I guess, yeah. Well, then it'll be interesting to see because if he takes that tyrant charge, it'll be nice because he'll be able to hit those boomers. But then there's so much to respond back that you lose the tyrants in response, right?
You do, yeah. That's definitely a questionable choice for sure because you're basically throwing your tyrants away with the assumption they're going to kill the ogres, which I don't even know if they do in one crack at it.
Right.
They have
You have about 30
30
attacks
attacks
on
hit on
4,
fours.
Oh, they should actually. Yeah, no.
crushing 2, so on 2,
And,
right?
and then
Yeah, so
and
you're
just
looking about
pray for a big
Oh,
overrun to get out of the chariot's charge.
Yeah, I mean
Or-
it's as safe as bet you can get a Kings of War, but not a auto.
Yeah, it's also got the effigy to make the curve nicer too, right?
Yep,
If it
that's
needs it.
another D3 failed wounds it gets to reroll, I think.
Yeah.
With the
Okay.
tempo Kyle's got going, I don't know if I'd take that gamble just yet.
Yeah, agreed. So they should kill a unit,
True.
but again, yeah. When you do that, you're essentially guaranteeing yourself dead.
Yeah, I'm
So
trying to get Remus.
it'd be very
Yeah,
aggressive
Kyle.
way to play.
He's not having it.
Kyle
You know,
submitting some chaff to get in the way of the chariots here,
Yeah, yep.
and sending the blue dragon in, not the red one. Interesting.
Huh.
Yeah, he's.
I guess he'll probably try to move
You
the
gotta
red
have a
dragon
camper
to
today.
maybe threaten flanks or rears.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they have sight. Maybe they have sight on the goblin's flank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the red, assuming the red's in position to really go a good distance to kind
Oh,
of get around.
hold
Amy's
on.
you in a corner.
Oh,
Oh, there is enough room there.
Uh-oh.
oh no! Looks like a mistake on Chris's part. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Ooh,
That's going to be big.
okay.
That's going to be really big.
Yeah, absolutely. That is absolutely a big deal. Yeah, that's
He spent a lot of time trying to avoid that too.
exactly. Really an amateur mistake, schoolboy error from Chris here. Just kind of spending the time and you know being careful, and then end of the day he didn't quite measure the base size enough. Who knows?
I don't know. I mean, those chariots are so wide; it's so hard to protect the whole
It
frontage,
is.
even
It's
with the
Yeah.
Very good point. Very good point. This is definitely a downside of this new chariot formation here, where you know it just can't, you know, all this effort you put in, and these are even the bigger dragons too, right? We're not even looking at 50 mils here. We're looking at the big 75 Titan
big
dragons.
75s, yeah.
Yeah, so even with that, he was still able to fit both in there. So, big tough loss for Chris here. At least they're inspired. I think Rockamok's enough range there to get him with very inspiring, I imagine.
Let's see. Yep.
So he will have to roll nerve check twice on that, and you know they're melee 4. One of those things about melee 4 that we all know
Yeah.
that play undead and armies that don't have access to that, you never know what's going to happen. So that unit is not dead by any means yet. We'll kind of wait and see what happens.
Right. Kyle also moving up his Lycaelodons behind some Ember Sprites, and he did charge those red goblins with one of his Tyrant Hordes on the hill there. So definitely going all in on the flank there on turn 2.
Yep, good choice from Kyle. Definitely pressing the advantage there. You know, if he does kill that chariot horde, I'm sure he's going to look to kind of, you know, really just get around. I'm sure one of the dragons will look to get around the side and just start in that rear charge, because once that happens, it's really not a good spot for the ogres. So we're just going to have to wait and see here.
Do we know which way the salamanders by this building are facing with the tree?
Yeah, so good
Looks
point.
like they're pointed to the right.
They are,
Okay.
yeah. They're looking to the right, and of course their flank is covered there. So there's a lot of strong positioning you can get in this game for those that haven't done it, using obstacles to cover your flanks. You can do some interesting situations here where, for example, the siege breakers, you know, should they even have range to charge those ancients, they can't actually do it because they have to respect the zones. They have to charge the flank zone if they're in the flank zone. But since the building's in the way, they just cannot declare a legal charge. So, you know, they probably have the range from where they are there. But, you know, very smart position from Kyle, just kind of using that terrain to kind of just stop them and just say, hey, you know, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to charge me in the side, and you can't do it. So, you know, a very, very good positioning here. Again, just kind of making sure that he's holding this side. You know, in the same way Chris is trying to hold the left flank, he's trying to do the same thing on the right flank, trying to stall and kind of wait.
Yep, and they are in the flank.
Okay.
And they are just in range, but again, like you said, no way to fit in the flank there. So.
Yep, very, very smart from Kyle there. Very, very smart.
They're actually
like
well
Kyle.
in range. Those siege breakers are speed 6 now. They're not speed 5 like they used to be.
Yep. Yeah, siege
You're
breakers.
right, they are.
They are. Yeah, they're fantastic now. They're really one of the premier units on the list.
I was looking at the wrong line.
Yeah, exactly. Well, either way they had it, so it's again smart play. Now it looks like the movement's done. Kyle's decided I'm good. I'm gonna move right into shooting. A few little
He's
spot
shooting
shots.
at
Trying to shoot Grockamok again, which
Yeah,
is hard
with his
because he's
Ember
such a big
Sprites.
threat.
Right. Grockamok is gonna be looking to counter something, right? So
Definitely.
he wants to put some wounds on there. If Grockamok wants to grind somebody out, he wants a head start, obviously.
Yeah.
One thing, Dan, I want to ask you about Universal Battle. While they're kind of going through these roles here, have you had many players reach out to you, or I guess it's kind of more of a regional question? Is in lack of other tournaments, what do you guys think about Universal Battles counting towards Masters points and things like that? Has that been a discussion had in anyone's region yet?
It hasn't been in our region, anyways, in the Pacific Northwest. I don't know about yours in the Mid Atlantic.
Well, Alex is the regional chair, so
Yeah.
Yep, sure, yeah.
Maybe you can start a trend.
Yeah, it's something that's very interesting. You know, it's something that actually did come up last year. I think there have been a couple UV tournaments in the past, and you know, I think I've been against it previously, but that was before something this big and this kind of cool came around. So I don't know. We'll have to revisit that conversation, figure out if you can count as out of region or not. You know, I don't know if you guys
that could create an interesting situation where you could qualify through UB tournaments, but maybe not even currently own an army, right? Like,
well,
I mean,
okay.
that's completely theoretical. But
because in our particular region, you can only have one out of region tournament count towards your score, right? So
ours is the same way.
You do have to show up physically with an army and play.
Yeah.
You can show up to army maybe events that don't score painted and be able to actually qualify that way with just plastic. But yeah, not we use overall though if there's multiple scores. So not having a painted army is going to seriously impact your ability to make the team, right? So
right. I think that's every region does that a little differently. We have the same caveat you do, Dan, where we only allow one out of region score, and you still have to show up to a 2-day tournament in region. So you have to have multiple scores within region first, and that the out of region thing is really meant to kind of promote people that like to cross pollinate the other tournaments and not necessarily.
Big, he just removed those chariots there.
Wow, yeah. As I'm talking here, they went straight into combat, and you're absolutely right. Big hit.
Yep. The chariot horde is gone. Looks like the dragons each did about 4 or 5 wounds, and the Ember Sprites shipped in another. And then a couple of nerve rolls, and the chariots are gone. That's big.
Absolutely, really big. Yeah. Sorry to talk through that. That was a big moment. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can see that the chariots, they didn't do a ton of wounds, but it looks like the nerve rolls were good enough to kind of make that work. Looks like he's going, D3 back on one. I expect him kind of go D6-4 in the other one, or maybe he'll just pivot.
Maybe turn in.
Expect he'll just turn it.
Depends. Yeah, I actually like the D6-4 there personally. Because even if you turn the dragon, I don't know if he's looking to charge with it next turn. Again, just depends what he wants to do with it.
Yeah, it looks like they can't tell if that blue dragon can see Grok or not. It looks like they might have his corner, just on his back corner there, just a little bit.
And Grok looks out of range of both those dragons. That bought him a little bit of time.
Yeah,
I think you're right. Grok's got 12, right? Straight up.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that mistake's gonna cross Chris pretty dearly here. Demetrius kicking himself, you know, for kind of allowing that second dragon to fit in there, you know. But again, there's only so much you can do with that wide base size, right? So
yeah.
Cyle rolling these tyrants attacks now against the Red Goblin Scouts, not using effigy of fire. Probably shouldn't need it.
Shouldn't need it. Yeah, it looks like a pretty average first roll there. 14 hits coming in. Not using effigy, so anything but here, as you say. So we'll kind of wait and see how many wounds come in here.
I know Chris said when he was deploying that he underestimated how wide those chariot bases are, and I think this is another example where it's just popping up.
Yeah, I mean it's a new unit for everyone, right? I mean not even as a new ogre player, but like anyone who's switched chariots from your horde, you have to rebase them and yeah, again, I mean that's kind of always been the chariot's eternal struggle, right? That dealing with base size. It looks like that problem hasn't quite gone away yet. So unfortunate for Chris here. Very fortunate for Cyle. So as I say that here, it looks like a quick nerve roll here has eliminated those red goblins as well. So
yep.
So that left flank,
well done, Cyle. Yeah, Cyle has completely solidified that flank on turn 2. Not what we want to see as ogres. Definitely not looking good here. Chris is going to need to really push the pressure here on the right side, and he's going to have to take some risks, I think, to kind of give up that. We're very curious to see how he reacts on his turn.
Felix wants to know what you're drinking, Alex.
Juice, yeah.
Oh, what kind of beer is it? I want to know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I drink this on you right now. Just it's called Vienna Lager. It's a pretty standard lager here out of Richmond, brewery in Richmond. So very drinkable beer for Sunday afternoon. So, yeah, exactly.
I may have to go get one myself. I'm not drinking anything yet, but I can go get something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's appropriate.
We'll send Dan to the waiting room temporarily while he's off getting a drink. Now over to bottom of turn 2. All right, so you're Chris Fisher. You just lost one flank. What is your priority for this turn? What do you do to bring this game back at this point?
Yeah. So you lost a left flank, but you were planning to do that anyways, right? So the game's not over yet. Not by a long shot. So you need to push that right side as hard as you can, in my opinion. And there's limitations that obviously Kyle knows, and he's kind of holding back, right? So, the chariots are gonna have to probably charge something here. If they're within range, I don't know if they are. That's a good time to check that.
Bring Dan back.
Welcome back, Dan. What you got?
Oh, where is it here? It's the last mango. It's a mango wit from Fuggles and Warlock.
All
Very
right.
nice. That sounds interesting. That's a lot more flavor than I'm drinking probably, but it's exciting. I'll get an exciting beer for the next one.
Is Grakamak in charge range of anything but those Ember sprites? Because it's looking like no, but as I think all of you personally know, I'm very bad at eyeballing distances.
So he's 3, 6, 9. So he's got 12, right? So he could technically get to the tyrants, but I don't know that he can get around the Ember sprites to get there.
He's nimble, right?
Yeah, he could but the siege breakers would have to get out of the way.
Yeah, and they're kind of stuck in traffic behind the goblins that are already engaged with sprites.
He could probably pivot once facing, shoot the gap between the Ember sprites and the building, then one more pivot at the tyrants.
I think you're right.
I mean, I don't know perfectly without like taking a base, but just looking. And the way that Cyle positioned his dragons, he should be fine. Well, he probably get a flank charge from the red dragon, but the blue dragon doesn't get in, right?
No.
Tyrants
he's
are
looking
pretty
wrong,
soft, though. I think they're dash 17, defense 4. So he could possibly break them and overrun. Oh, no, looking at that. You want to click on the red one for a sec?
Yeah.
No, that would require a big overrun.
But if he turns and faces the dragon, one front charge from the dragon, what's Grakamak's?
Yeah, he's 15, 17, defense 5.
So already got 2 wounds on him. I mean, that's pretty dicey, but I don't. If I was playing this game, and I'm by no means as good of a player as Chris or Alex or Kyle, that probably would be something I would be taking, just because this is where the momentum starts slipping away, and that can be a momentum changer, right?
Yep. And as we're talking here, it looks like those chariots on the right were within charge range. Must have been close. I don't know if. Again, I don't know. Maybe it sounds like again the speed of them. I think Cobb maybe pushed him a little bit too much forward the first turn, where he wasn't able to back out of range. And I'm sure Chris had equal part in being aggressive, and that's why.
Nice hill charged.
Expected, yeah, very big movement there, and great movement on the rabble there, covering the chariots. Should things go wrong, it looks like their flank is going to be good to go. Jake, you make a really good point with. That potential charge on the tyrants. I mean, if you feel like you're behind in this game, I mean, those moves like that are things that you look to do, right, to get back in the game. I mean, the thing with it's hard to predict how much damage you're going to do from Arkamon because he's so swingy with the blast and the hits and everything. So yeah, he could one shot that unit, but then at the same time, he could also completely whiff and kind of end up putting himself in even further hole. So it's kind of how much risk aversion Chris has right now in this game. It depends on how much he feels behind. Again, he lost the unit he's expecting to lose. So given that he's got some good charges here lined up, and he expects to kind of do some damage here, I think he's not looking as bad as one might think. He's definitely giving a little tit for tat here.
So going back to that chariot unit, if you zoom in there, looks like there's space to get in the flank.
Yeah, I was seeing that.
Well, yeah, but they can't run through the goblins, right? So it's like
no, but they can go straight forward to touch and then pick up in place. Correct?
Oh. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was referring more to the ancients that were in the side.
Okay,
guys.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Because I guess Chris would hope he breaks the. I mean, so if he breaks these Salamander Prime, what are they? Ancients. What would he do? I mean, does he pivot? Does he?
Yeah, he back
pivots,
up,
right? Because if he backs up, you would back up because they can't fit in the gap between that house.
Yeah. So now that you've locked the ancients down, you definitely want to back up. So you want to try to get the tyrants out of your way. And see if you can get if you can get a 3 roll, tyrants might not even get to charge at all. So We'll just
And
have
the
to wait and
boomers
see.
still have some targets too, and they could do some work. I'm expecting. Yep, he's pivoting these boomers in the center here. I would expect to start helping out on that collapsing flank. Oh no, looks like
Yeah.
maybe not.
Or maybe he's thinking about it.
Yeah, it's a good question because if I see this unit's got a clear shot, obviously, to hitting the ancients, but the second unit, can they also see the ancients? It's going to be quite tricky for them to draw that line of sight. So I don't know if we'll have to see. It looks like Chris is kind of coming to that realization now that, hey, actually these boomers have no more room, nothing less to do here. Maybe they are better toward the middle, and I think you're right about that, Jake. I think siege breakers are still defense 6, right? So I mean they're gonna sit there. They're gonna have assuming he doesn't give any more double charges or flanks up here, he's gonna be able to do be able to hold this whole left side still. So definitely want to see what's gonna happen there.
Yeah. And I think it's definitely good that he moved these siege breakers up so that the building is covering their flank. He didn't want them to get flanked by the dragons or anything coming off the other side.
Yeah, we have to wait and see what he does with those two. Those two units, Rockamok and the siege breakers. That's a big deal right there.
Yep.
Gotta figure out what to do with those. Looks like the boomers are kind of moving up behind the siege breakers now. Not sure what Chris is thinking with that, to be honest. Maybe he wants to just kind of have them reserve.
Yes, we're get some bobbled up though, some right, which isn't
Power
ideal.
Chris, I would have done a 90-degree pivot. I would have moved straight towards the left side of the board. I would have said, hey, I need some help. We need some help here. But here you go. This is the big 2 units here. We want to see what he does.
Yep. Yeah, that building in the middle is just making it really difficult for Chris to decide what to do with things, I think.
Yeah, amazingly, having a giant impassable piece when you're trying to get in the center of the board changes the dynamic, right?
Surprise, surprise.
Definitely is.
I think we'll be seeing some drain life from those warlocks. At least one of the warlocks this turn. Just because, I mean, unless if he starts lightning bolting the tyrants, which is a potential. But there's more hits from the drain life, so you could zap those ember sprites and then have those goblins free.
Yeah, the problem with drain life is the range, right? Such a low range. And it's getting the line of sight from drain life is much harder said, done, easier said than done, I should say. Like especially you have your height, 4 ogres everywhere, excuse me, height 3 ogres everywhere. He's gonna really struggle to kind of find arcs for them. I think maybe that one can hit the Gekatins there, and maybe he can get to heal some of those wounds off Rockamok. But again, that completely depends on where Rockamok's gonna end up. So I want to see where that happens.
Yeah, that's one of the drawbacks, I guess, of playing ogres. Everything's tall. Everything's kind of the same height. It's hard to get. Other armies just put a wizard on a horse and then they can see all over the top of all their infantry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the cool thing about seeing these battles here. Is these are 2 armies that you don't really see a lot of. I mean, I think ogres definitely more so, but salamanders are very rarely do you see them. So, it's very cool to see them in this environment. You get to play them and kind of see some of the tactics and some of the units.
Especially with the changes from the new edition, because I think they got a lot of improvements, but because they were so unused before, I think it's sort of gone under the radar, right?
Yes, I think that's always the case when you see units changed a bit. You have some players been playing for a while that are kind of ready to go, but most players don't have those armies ready to if they want to play it. There's always a good 6 month to a year lag between what you want to play and what you put together and when you're actually going to get on the table, right? And speaking of which, kind of jumping into that, have you guys been doing anything cool in your kind of quarantine time here, hobby wise, or any future projects coming up from anyone here?
Well, I was prepping for my tournament. I was doing all the terrain and prizes for my tournament, and then since I got pushed back a couple of months, I kind of lost all motivation. So right now that's all on hold. I'll pick that stuff up, in May at some time. I started running a D&D campaign on Roll20, and I started playing Kings of War on UB, and that's pretty much how I've been.
What D&D campaign are you running? Is it pre-made or homebrew?
It's Storm King's Thunder. I was already running Storm King's Thunder like over the summer because a lot of my friends are teachers. So like during the summer on weekdays, they kind of don't have a lot to do. And so I started running Storm King's Thunder like a year or 2 ago, and they hadn't ever finished it. So now again, all my friends who are teachers are stuck at home and can't do anything because they can't go to work. They work maybe a couple hours a day doing office hours or whatever. and so they were kind of desperately looking for something to do. And I was like, well, hey, why don't I just buy the Storm King's Thunder module in Roll20, so all the stuff is there.
Mike, it looks like they want you to make a judge ruling for them.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Yep, sorry, I'll quit.
Very interesting.
So for
All right.
me, I've been. We can get back into your D&D once you make your ruling there, Mike.
Sure.
But for me, I was also working very hard on a new undead army for Mike's tournament Vanguard, and knowing that got pushed back took a lot of momentum out of my sales as it is. I have a Ghoulghast with wings that I'm in the process of finishing up. I basically just need to finish basing it, and that's going to be one of my countercharge entries. And I have a werewolf horde that has been on my table for weeks now that I haven't started. But other than that, I've gotten really excited with all the extra free time to start working on stuff I normally wouldn't. So I put together and removed mold lines from all my Space Hulk pieces, which is a pretty cool board game. And I then also put together and sort of gap filled the Warhammer Quest Blackstone Fortress, and have sprayed that all Wraithbone, and I'm going to use contrast paints and play around with those with contrast paints, with the idea that next army project will use it, and these are my tests. So I've been pretty excited about that.
So this is interesting. I think it looks like he's trying to get both the shield breakers and the
goblins.
Yeah. Do you think that's possible? I know they shift enough to make room, but do they overshift to actually make excessive room so that they can make that pivot?
So that was kind of a interesting point of rules discussion is how much do you pivot, and in the case of a multi-charge, you're always going to assume not pivot, but adjusting how much you slide over. You're always going to slide over to make as much room as possible for multiple units. So that they decided you don't just go half. If you could slide over more to fit another unit, that's what you're going to do. That's kind of their final position. So the question is here: if the goblins slide over enough, I think can the ogres behind them fit? I don't know if that's been ruled on yet, or if they're still discussing it. It looks I see Mike kind of jumping in their Discord there. He's probably kind of figuring out the technical aspect of the discussion here. Beyond that, oh, go ahead.
So do they actually get to pivot, go as much as possible to make sure that works?
That's correct. Yeah. So their final position to consider whatever lets the second unit fit. So it used to be, you've seen it played a couple different ways, but the correct ruling on that I've seen as recent as possible is that the goblins sliding over as much to let the goblins fit would be the amount that they slide over. And
yeah, so that's actually the rules question. They were just asking me is whether or not they're allowed to slide the goblins over enough to make room for the ogres. And I don't think the goblins are allowed to slide so far over that they get fit, right? Like the goblins should slide to their final position.
I believe the goblins should be sliding as much as possible. That was my interpretation, or at least based on the current rules. I don't know if they had their own interest or not. It is a sort of tricky rule that I don't think I've seen it officially FAQ'd anywhere. I think it's one of those you got to find the Facebook post that kind of explained it in more detail. I don't know. I don't think we've gotten quite an extensive ruling FAQ wise for some of these situations.
So my fellow Canadian Alex Cuss totally disagrees with you there.
Is that right? Okay, I'm happy to get corrected. So
he thinks they shouldn't be able to charge. Is that what Alex?
He thinks that they are not going to be able to make it. Yeah.
I don't think they will either.
So you say not including the pivot? Is that what he's saying there? I see.
Yeah.
Well, that depends on how far they move, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think.
I think they're a little too close to make it because it's hard for them to make
Sorry, I wasn't commenting on the pivot. I was commenting on the fact that how much they can fit into that situation. So
right.
Yeah. Sorry. That was
so the consensus sounds like those siege breakers are not going to be able to get in on those Ember sprites, right? That's kind of what everybody thinks.
That's right. I guess. Yeah. If you measure the pivot and didn't work, then that sounds right. Yep.
I'm gonna pop over and tell them that that's where we all think.
Okay. More than that, I'm kind of curious why he wants to do that.
Yeah.
You kind of stop, and some of those things you kind of have to, you take all the time thinking of can you do it? You never start to think about why you should do it or should you do it? So I think
in his situation, would you? I'm looking, and he could disengage with those goblins and then turn and move to the side and then charge him with the siege breakers and be in a fairly decent position, right?
I don't think he can because I think he's within an inch.
Yeah,
so
you have that weird.
You are. Yep.
So with disengaging, right? So it's one of those tricky situations where if you disengage and you move, I think the rule is you have to finish your move further away than you started.
Yeah.
So
No, actually, further than 1 inch if you
oh,
disengage and
excuse
do
me,
it.
yeah, so further than an inch. So that's not really possible the way that this looks, I think. So given that the goblins are kind of stuck in so to speak with the swarms.
Yeah, and that's going to leave those siege breakers in a really tight spot with dragons looking at their flank like that.
This is a classic situation of you really want to make sure you don't move too close to your blocking units in front of you,
Yeah.
right? Because you get stuffed up so easily.
Some chat
Especially with
kind of talking about the rule discussion there. Yeah, I definitely, again, we're in the heat of the moment here. I don't know if everything I'm saying is correct. I think that's how been my understanding of the rules. Definitely, it's one of those rules that is a little weird the way it was interpreted as far as the final movements and stuff. I think I've seen it played both ways, and I think it's one of those things that TOs need to kind of understand. But yeah, it's the final position. The interpretation of the final position is kind of what determines their final movement or where they end up.
And I think the general rule of thumb is just don't follow your units too closely from behind. Like leave enough gap to pivot. Like take your bases and practice a little bit and figure out how far you need to stay back from your screen to make sure you can still get around them. Because I've gotten like Soul Reaver calves stuck behind Wraith troops and junk like that before that had screwed up my plans.
Exactly. Yeah, that's Chris. Chris, in an effort to be as aggressive as possible here, didn't leave himself enough room there to charge here, and not having nimble either kind of limits his ability to pivot and do much with them. So a good question from Chad here about charging sprites to the left. If you click on his siege breakers there,
I think they're out of arc.
Yeah, I think that I was going to say something. I think there's an arc issue here. Yep. Yeah. So if you click the back, so you see that arc there. Looks like everything to the left of that is out of arc. So he's not. Again, he probably would have been better served kind of consolidating, being a little further back behind the goblins. Again, it's hard to sometimes predict the state of the game when you're looking at things, and that's kind of what I think differentiates good players from maybe the better players is being able to anticipate what the board's going to look like.
Oh, he's going to chop it up now with a warlock.
Nice. Sacrificial warlock to protect the flanks there. Yeah, I mean, Cyle pushed up so aggressively with all those Ember sprites in the middle. Like he didn't leave Chris a whole lot of room to maneuver.
Yeah.
That's where that first turn move comes in so critical in situations like this.
This is where one of the interesting factors for the ogre heroes comes in, where because they're large infantry, they still absorb that charge, which is so important in moments like these.
Yeah.
And now we're back to checking to see if dragons can fit again.
It does not appear so.
All right. Hope Chris doesn't make the same error twice, right? Let's let's see. So I think looks like it could fit, or so he decided against moving.
So Marrow, for that ones that are blocking the Lycodons, he can't. He'd have to do 2 pivots to make that. There's no way he could make it.
Oh yes, correction. Yeah. So you only without being nimble, your unit's only limited at 1 pivot. So when you're so far behind a unit like this, your first pivot doesn't even take you out of their ability to even get around them. So you just you're stuck basically going straight 90 degrees at that point, kind of doing the corkscrew, so to speak, as they kind of most see it.
And I think this game's really showcasing the value that these Ember sprites bring to the Salamander army, because they, they're bogging things up. Their swarm size base lets them have just that extra blocking that maybe like a troop of geckos wouldn't. And then that early scout move really got them in a great position. Only on bottom of turn 2.
I agree, Jake. Couldn't agree more. I mean, he's got multiple units of these sprites too. He could kill this one and still have to deal with another one. The time
he just
really on
puts another
Kyle's
one
side
in.
here. Yeah, Kyle's got all the chaff here to just keep throwing those siege breakers. I mean, if I'm being realistic here, I don't see those siege breakers charging anything, worth of value for the next couple of turns. And even with the Lycodon's movement, I mean, he opted to kind of move those instead of sitting back and kind of taking pot shots with those. He said, what, I want these up here. He says, I want to keep these as an option. If they need to chaff too, they can chaff, and they score as well. So, units like Lycodons are very flexible, and they're very cool for that, for all those different options. So, again, we'll see how that kind of develops here.
From a hobbying perspective, what would you use as Ember Sprite models? Because this is a lot of Ember Sprites on the board, and I could see this being a lot of fun to use, but one of the big things holding me back every time from Swarms is there aren't great options for Swarm models.
Yeah.
Good
That's true.
question. I mean, Manic doesn't make any of these, I assume.
I don't
I have
know.
Salamander
I have some
models at all.
stuff from Titan Forge that I bought that I previously used in my demon army.
You're right. Yeah.
You're blocked by the
There we
banner
go.
there. Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Perfect.
No, he made it fit just on there.
It's not focusing very well.
It's not focusing great.
It.
Let me pull it back. So
That
it's
still
these.
doesn't help.
Cool.
These were kind of supposed to be like blue horrors, like Zeech blue horrors, but with like little flame spouts on their head,
Right.
and they come in like 3 or 4 different poses from Titan Forge. I use them as like lower abyssal or like abyssal imp kind of models.
Doesn't
I think
GW make what?
So
they're not
going
blue
back,
hearts, the
it's,
small ones.
Going back to the game just for a second, it turns out it looks like Gakamak or Grokamak didn't actually charge anything in the end of that.
Yeah, it looks like
So I think that's a missed opportunity.
Could be. I think the way it looks like he positioned though, he's protecting the.
yeah,
the
going to get charged, right?
Yeah, so I think Chris done a very sneaky thing here, where hopefully he's done it correctly this time. But he's trying to prevent as many charges on himself as possible. So and it looks like from what it looks like, I think nothing can really get charged here other than the Warlock. The Warlock's definitely suspect of being killed, but everything else looks pretty protected. So assuming that it looks like we were looking at here, it's a very interesting spot to kind of be in where I think Chris is going to protect himself. And again, he really wants to roll that right flank. He wants
4
to really,
wounds on that defense 6 unit's pretty big.
that's not defense 6. That's the ancients.
So he's shooting
right?
into the ancient.
Ancients are defense 6.
Yeah,
Are they?
absolutely.
Oh wow.
You got
They
lightning
are.
bolt. Lightning bolt. Give us and take it. Right. He one round is 0. Next round he does 4 wounds. Or
Now this
5.
is his boomers. He's shooting with his boomers here.
Oh, is it boomers?
Yeah, that was boomers.
Oh, sorry. Okay, boomers. So boomers doing 4 wounds. Still a great roll.
That's really good. Yeah.
We'll see how lightning bolts goes now. I think. Again, one thing I always I almost fear when this game rolls low, because I feel like it's gonna come back and dividends, right? It's gonna I roll low this round, I know next round it's gonna make up for it. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
If only it worked that way. I've played on Universal Battle a lot.
Fair enough.
It can be cruel.
Maybe it's just a fear of mine then. I don't know.
Moving into combat here. I think he'd already done the lightning bolts on this. So moving to combat here. The chariots on these ancients.
12 hits
right.
on 3s. 6
Coming down off the hill.
Oh,
big combat here. I see 11 wounds. That's a big roll
Oh, because
there.
it was off the hill, right?
It's coming off the hill.
Yep. There, get all that crushing.
Wow.
And I see 2 quick nerve rolls, and that's going to take
Chris
them off.
needs to collapse his flank in.
That's it.
Wow.
I am.
Big.
So now he's going to back up.
It's not often a unit with crushing 1 Thunderous 2 actually needs Thunderous from a hill.
Right.
Exactly. I really love the hill roll. The hill roll is actually one of my favorite rolls that come out of 3rd edition. To me, it really makes the hills for good players that are kind of looking ahead. It makes them a pivotal point of the battlefield, right? It's not just a line of sight bump. It's taking the hill first is actually a big deal, because if you're charging off the hill, your opponent has to deal with that extra Thunderous. So, I can't tell you how many times I put Brock Riders on hills, and that extra Thunderous is a big deal when it comes to units like that don't have,
Werewolves and Lycans are a great way to do it as well, because they're fast and nimble, so you can get in some really interesting charge, patterns and get on the hill quick.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially a board like this where, again, I think if Chris was able to go first, for example, he could have really changed the dynamic here with some of this stuff here. But he's doing a good job responding here.
So he's trying to see what he wants to react with that chariot.
Yeah, so I think he's looking at where
his brought a backup.
I assume the backup's the play here.
It has to be.
I do worry just because, again, I think the base size might come into play here again, because they're so wide here. The Tyrants being able to pivot might be able to ping them if they don't get back far enough. So, obviously in a situation like this, he pivots, he's just giving them the charge. I think might as well back up, because if you do back up far enough, then you can at least avoid, at least if you roll high enough, you can avoid a charge altogether, right? So, But again, Chris might say, "Screw it, I want to at least turn it and make you charge me." Right? Sometimes there's some comfort in making your opponent, forcing your opponent to do a play, because at least they can't do something unexpected, right? So maybe Chris just says, I'd rather have control where you line up and get my backup or something. Who knows? Looks like he's backing up. So
he's backing up.
Yeah, that's the right choice there.
2 inches, I think. So yeah.
Because he only needed to back up an inch to make it so those Tyrants couldn't flank him anymore.
I would say so, but that's easier said than I think when you come to measure it. Actually, the Tyrants, because they go so wide, you have a little bit of leeway to get some angle on there. So I feel like a 1-inch would have kept him within charge range. But again,
Right.
we don't have to worry about it. So we'll kind of
Moving over here to some red goblins on some ember sprites.
Looks like 1 wound.
might be enough. No. All right, top of turn 3.
There you go. Okay.
Back
Well,
over to
from
Kyle.
Chris there, a lot of positioning, a lot of interesting movements going on here.
That was a good. I mean, that was a pretty solid turn for Chris. He did some good damage on those ancients and popped the other ancients. Interestingly, if he removes those ancients, that takes all the inspiring out of the core of Kyle's army, which can really cause some swingy break rolls to come into effect.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a unique unit where you have inspiring on the unit itself. I mean, obviously things like Elohi have had in the past, but with having a core mainstay army like that with inspiring, I actually really like it. I really like the idea behind it. You know, being able to kind of inspire without having to invest in the characters,
Especially with the lore behind them, because they're almost like the lizardmen equivalent of the dwarf longbeards for Warhammer, right? They're like the ancient grumbler,
Right.
Veterans.
Exactly. It looks like Kyle wastes no time here,
Oh,
by the
look
way,
at
just going
this.
in.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
he says, I'm going to eat your
He's just
warlock.
applying the pressure.
Yep, exactly. I'm going to throw more swarms in your way. And here's where I think that the D6 roll for the red dragon could have been a better option, right? So, if you kind of think about it, this red dragon is really kind of out of position right now. He doesn't really have much to do. Then go forward. If you had rolled D6 forward, he could have been up near that hill, and you could have done a slick pivot around to really threaten the rear of Chris's army. That's what I would have considered, because especially if you rolled highly on it, and you could just done a straight pivot, move 10 pivot, or even a pivot go 20, and just kind of really get behind the army. That's the stuff that ogre just can't deal with, right? When you got a unit like that there. So Chris is trying to slow the pain here as much as possible, but we'll see again.
Siege breakers are in a rough position with those ember sprites, because they're going to charge ember sprites and kill one and not even remove all the important blocking ember sprites, right? And there's still going to be dragons and tyrants on the board.
So if you guys look there, looks like the tyrants think we're able to pivot there. So I think they were just able to hit. So if you look again, so it looks like they're safe backing up enough there, but with the pivot, there's always a slick angle there. And again, the long base sides of the chariots comes in again to haunt Chris.
Just got a touch.
Yep, exactly. So they're so long, it's just you can't get away from it. Again, kind of always been the weakness of chariots, and it seems to be no different here. It's just that I wonder. At least they're not as wide as they were, like lengthwise or widthwise. However you look at it, as the old models. But again, there's his own. Chariots still have that same inherent issue. It looks like with just being too big and cumbersome to really get out of the way. So we'll see if they can take a charge from the tyrants or not. I feel like they might be in trouble here.
Yeah.
If he can get some hot rolls with his boomers, they can, help some things.
Hot dice help a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yes, true. Absolutely. Yeah. The boomers definitely need to get in. They need to really get to the left side of the battle and start taking pot shots there. Again, the cool thing at least was that Chris should have a little bit of counterplay with Grakagamok, at least as far as hitting units and doing damage. So I'm curious to see what he gets into, and if he can spike some dice there, they might be able to kind of level the field a bit.
It's tough though, because it's just getting into trades, and now the ogres are already so far behind. Trading's not really good.
Yep. Again, yeah, it's like going first, right? I think it comes down to so much. You'll see that, and again, even a lot of things that Chris could do here. Maybe it's going to stall out a bit. We'll see. Definitely see.
Looks like he's moving on to shooting now. Probably going to be shooting over the goblins and the ember sprites, the siege breakers behind him.
Yep. Okay. He's going to take some pot shots where he can. Absolutely.
Yep. Not really anything else to shoot at over this.
Exactly. You don't expect to do a lot of damage here, but every little bit counts. I mean, there's no question about that. I will say the Lichlodons were one of the things I looked at the list, and I did kind of question a little bit as far as their fit, but here I'd love to be proved wrong right here. So
nothing. They're Pierce 1, right?
Yep, a pretty good hit roll, but unfortunately did not convert to damage.
Yep.
And looks like the swarms will take their shots as well. I see one wound went through. No. One wound. Yep.
Just one.
Yep. Oh, so they had vicious. That's why you rolled that second die there. Didn't catch that.
Yep. Well, every little bit helps. Since I think Chris's warlock is not going to be casting Drain Life on himself.
Yeah, don't think so. He's not long for this world, right? Let's see here. These are the kind of comments I love in the sense that like this is the time when your opponent gets a little overconfident, might roll snake eyes. You know, like these are the things that I
Right.
look for. We're like all right, like although everything's been set up here, right? Everything this warlock holds here, he's really gonna slow down Cyle a lot. And here comes the attacks. Here
Oh, these are
comes
breath
the roll.
weapons on these
These
siege
are breath
breakers.
attacks,
Oh.
yeah.
I'm
From the
sorry.
dragons, yep.
Yep. Oh, that's right. Dragons have breath weapons too. What?
Oh, is he shooting Grok? Or is he shooting the dragons? Look like he's shooting Grok.
I thought the shooting Grok, it looks like, yeah.
Okay, interesting option there. He had the option to hit the flank of the siege breakers. I think they're defense 5 base, right, instead of 6.
They are.
That's
They
right,
are,
yeah.
yeah. And if it's not in the front, they don't get the big shield. Yeah.
Right. So he could have potentially got some wounds there. But he said, you know what, Grokkamuk's more important, maybe. Just got him with a 5
wounds on
fantastic
Grokkamuk.
damage.
Yeah, that's nice.
Very nice. That's
If you can
gonna
get
be
a
very
waiver there,
difficult.
that's gonna, yeah.
That's a 10 to waiver, though. That's still rough.
Yeah.
Yep. Should be safe here, but you never know. It's an 8.
Yep.
He's good.
It's
So he
safe for the
holds.
moment.
Again, the problem with 5 wounds is now he's not as safe from a charge.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
So we'll see. You know, Grokkamuk's going to want to counterplay, going to want to get some charges in there, and that's going to be limited by his ability to take a punch. So
Moving on to melee, yep. Starting with the Ember Sprites on the goblins in the middle.
Yep.
He rolled them all at once.
5 wounds.
Looks like.
5 wounds end of the day. Those regiments, I think, are
Yeah,
14
they're
everyone said?
fine.
Only a 4, so
Only
they
a
will
9.
They survived. That's real nice for.
They're
for
not even
Chris.
wavered. Yeah, they're fine. Yeah, exactly. And again, that's kind of one of the things I talked about earlier. Is like, you know, they just have this presence though, even though they cost roughly the same as the Ember Sprites. Actually, I think a little bit cheaper, 5 points cheaper or something. But
They are 5 points cheaper, yep.
yeah, so even though they're kind of equivalent points, their presence is much more powerful. So
Oh, there goes him.
And the warlock goes down, but luckily the goblin staying alive really means those tyrants are not in a good position.
Yeah, that's an
He's got
interesting one.
He's right up on the buildings. He's right up on his Ember Sprites.
Right.
I think he might just be leaving them where they are and moving on.
Yeah, he doesn't really have much choice. They could pivot maybe an inch. That's about it. But that would just give Grok a flank.
Exactly. Yeah, so moving down here to the ancients on these other goblins. What? Ooh. Yeah, what was that? 12 wounds? They crushed them too. Yeah, that definitely gets rid of them.
But now they're going to get the siege breakers in the front.
Yeah,
Probably.
you worry here for sure.
If the chariots are gone, yeah. Otherwise, I don't think the siege breakers can fit through
If
that.
the chariots counter on the geckos, that opens up the charge for the siege breakers, right? And then the boomers can just hit the tyrants, and since tyrants are defense 4, I think that's a play to clear up that whole flank.
Definitely.
Well,
Well, that's assuming the chariots are going to live.
survive.
We'll
Right, it's
kinda
true,
wait
it's
until it
true.
happens here.
There's his. Yep, that's
Ember.
him using his effigy of fire.
Oh yeah, because they didn't do much there.
10
Oh,
total
10.
wounds. That is
No,
not
that's
bad.
big.
The chariots I'm looking at here, I believe, are 19, 17, 19. Even a waiver would be a big deal here, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't sidestep when you're wavered.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and they have brutal tyrants. Is that right? No, oh, they don't. Sorry.
No.
Oh, okay.
All right, let me look at that. Okay, so looks like a 7 to waiver, 9 to kill on these chariots.
Nice, we got
Still
the-
got the other
Some
unit.
more attacks still.
Are these, I guess, the geckos?
Yeah, these would be the
The
geckos.
geckos. Okay.
They
So
did
geckos.
one more wound. That makes
One more. That's a big
that
difference.
changes that curve a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Every wound here is going to be a big, big deal.
Are the chariots inspired here?
I don't think so.
I don't think that's 6 inches.
No.
Oh, it's
No,
even
they're too
riskier.
far.
Yeah.
Oh, did you just take him off? He did.
Yeah, I see.
Yep, that's
Wow.
See an 11 there. I believe that's the nerve roll. That's a big swing right there. So again, just the weight of attacks and damage.
Mhm.
These things are, the chairs. We thought they're safe. We thought they went in there. I mean, can't blame Chris for trying, right? He needed to really
Right.
do that. But now he's got to deal with these Gegathon warriors coming up.
Yep.
He's got to deal with, some more or less healthy tyrants. So,
That's
Yeah,
gonna
the
be a
siege
tough
breakers
call
are
for
gonna
what to do with those
be
siege breakers.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
I think if I was Chris, I'd probably put the siege breakers into the. Well, actually, these tyrants on the left flank are facing in towards the ancients, aren't they?
They
They
are.
sure are. Yeah, they're ready for that. Yeah.
Oh, that's. That's
yeah.
pretty
So
solid.
Basically, Salamander is just enveloping here.
exactly. So just with the power here of even the flank we thought was looking strong, they're still kind of not quite cleaning up as fast
No.
as they would like. So again, that
And those dragons are coming.
Hmm.
absolutely, yeah. The dragons will be there. They're threatening. I'd like to see how far they actually threaten. I don't know if you might can on those dragons for us, see how far 20 inches
Oh,
takes us
yep.
with those. So it's
Oh,
kind of
yeah,
these
they're
are the things
already
you got to
there.
kind of look at, and sometimes you forget because they're so far
Yeah,
away.
they're
They're
already
5
there.
away, but their height 6, they don't care what's in the way, and they can fly
Right.
through. So
So buildings to
Unfortunately,
height
that
8, right?
that
Oddly
balloon
enough,
can
you
see
can
over the
actually see over
building.
that building. Yeah.
you say that, but one is on a hill, remember? So even the
Yeah.
hill is
No,
going
what
to be
it can see over the building since it's on the hill, right?
correct. Yeah. So the way that they describe the height rules here is that the hills are height 8. The dragon is height 6 base. Standing on that hill, he adds 3 to his height, so he's gonna be height 9. So he's gonna be able to see over and threaten things on that side. So that the blue dragon is a really really good spot. I mean, they're both they're both threatening. And I like the way he's been running them as a pair, right? The pair of dragons.
Yeah.
Just together they have enough volume of attacks to kind of just pretty much pick up any unit they both kind of focus on.
Yeah.
So
Even
it's
front
very
charging.
very
Yeah.
potent. I respect the decision to kind of keep them together because respects that combination and doesn't let Chris kind of give much. Even normally you feel safe giving people a front charge. In this case, not so much. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see what Chris responds. I think he's gonna have to play ultra aggressive here.
Yeah. So
And it
Chris
looks like he's
starting his
going.
movement. Yep, bottom of turn 3, he started moving these goblins over here on this side, and now, I'm sure Chris is scratching his head trying to figure out what his options are at this point.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, things did not go as planned. Again, that left flank just really needed to hold. It's like one of those things that you don't want to give up a unit like that turn 2. So
And looks like he is sending the siege breakers in against those tyrants.
yes, he opted for the tyrants. Thinking they're damaged already, he should be able to pick them up. I see
Lower
2
defense as well.
boomers
Yeah.
can focus on that 1 unit. So assuming he's going
And then maybe he's hoping that the ancients block up the other tyrants because they are speed 4.
right, you're effectively taking the unit out of the game, right? When you look at if the tyrants are kind of waiting for the ancients to die, right? Why give them a target to charge at all, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
And then the boomers are just going to shoot into those ancients and try and pick them up.
Absolutely, those are clean shots too. They have a good chance of doing it, if you ask me.
Yeah.
It's a lot of attacks, and the only thing you got to really worry about more so is those dragons again looming towards you, 20 inches.
Right.
Yeah.
And the ever threat of that.
And Kyle's done a good job preserving his unit strength on this left side. I mean, realistically, he's lost very, very little, and Chris's advantage in unit strength has pretty much evaporated.
Yep. And looks like Grok is going in against the tyrants, and the siege breakers are taking the flank of those ember sprites right in front of them because they can't really do much of anything else.
Hmm. Hoping to break it and then pivot, I would assume.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The good news is because those tyrants are now facing towards the right flank, even if the Ember Sprites die, Chris is in a good position, at least from those tyrants. Like, they're not going to threaten him in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kyle doesn't necessarily need it, but
if Rockama comes swinging hot, I mean, this could really change this whole dynamic on this flank. I mean, if the tyrants are dying right now. They're taking damage. Those are just high unit strength units. Those are not the units you want to live, right? So I can see a situation here where all it's left in Kyle's arms gonna be some dragons, some Licklodons, and unit strength's kind of going to the window.
Right?
Yeah, so it's one of those things that the dragons are the the hammer in the army and they're the tanking, but at the same time it's this.
It's
you
an objective-based
don't
game.
want them. Yeah, you don't want those two the only thing left alive in the game. So we'll kind of see how that plays out at the end, but it definitely could be a factor.
Chris has moved the boomers up into the geckos here, so he's not gonna double up shooting at the ancients with them, I guess. And he's moved the warlock up. I'm not sure what he's planning on doing with the warlock. At this
I think
point,
he's going to drain the tyrants.
Yeah,
That's probably a good plan.
Really
They are just within 6. He doesn't really have anything to heal over here, but
Well, it's the fact that it's actually getting
Extra
that
wounds,
combat
right?
easier to break, right?
definitely.
yeah. I wonder if Chris is looking and saying, "I don't want those agents to die this turn."
That sidestep with the boomers is nice. I think it just put it out of range of both dragons.
Let's see.
You could throw a 20 on there.
3,
Yeah.
6, 9, 12.
So the blue line, the third blue line is 18 inches, I think. So if you go
Yeah.
2 more past that, can
Yep,
we?
they are.
They're
They're out of range.
Okay, very nicely done. And they can take a shot as well, I believe. Do they look within 12 of the?
totally.
Ancients? Yeah, I would imagine as well.
9 to it. They are, yeah.
Great. So good maneuvering.
So, yep. So here comes the drain life, like we were expecting.
Yep.
With 3 hits.
3 wounds.
3 wounds.
That
Three
puts
wounds.
them in easy breaking distance now.
Yeah, definitely going to seal their fate, I think, unquestionably. You don't have anything to heal, but, so be it. Damage is damage.
And now
again,
shooting at the
here.
Ancients.
Again, I'm gonna voice a little disagreement here. I think he would have been better off shooting both the boomers and kind of ignoring the warriors here. I think
ignoring the geckos, you mean?
Yeah. Sorry, ignoring the gecko warriors. And let's see here, how much damage you get
Just
through
one.
Here?
Just one down. Oh no, are they piercing?
They are piercing one, I believe.
So that should be 2.
6.
2 wounds. So it's up to 6. And granted, that was they should be doing about 3 wounds on average. So I would have liked them have up to see them up to around 9 to 10 wounds. That's enough to really get a good chance to break them. I think Ancients only dash 17, so
7 for the nerve check puts them at 13. That's not going to be enough.
I mean, when you take you just decided that you didn't want. There's just 7 you needed right there. So again, most things that I feel like when you're behind a little bit, you should take those kind of chances and try to pick up units. But again, we'll see.
Especially since those geckos aren't gonna pick up those boomers on the charge.
Yeah, the geckos, right?
So.
And not only that, but the geckos here are, they're kind of annoying. I agree, but you essentially have taken your boomers out of the game for 2 turns now because you're gonna have to deal with these warriors and they're gonna turn around and have nothing else to look at. So
right.
I just don't like the idea of kind of wasting their time there. So
and as expected.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Quick rolls there from Chris.
Take them off. Even with very low nerve rolls, still took them off.
Yep, absolutely. He rolled quite well to hit there. At 12
Oddly
hits,
enough, I actually think the drain life made a difference with that 4 nerve roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So now, I mean, he pivots, right? Like that's
unquestionably, yeah. There's no.
That's super risky trying to walk forward to get out of that charge arc. They'll still be able to see that back corner.
Yeah, it's risky. It really serves no purpose either. I mean, you're moving away from the center of the board at this point in the game. That's not what you want to do.
Yeah, he needs to get his hammers into the unit strength on those tyrants, right? So.
Yeah, and those are D6 on the front, so you really want them. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not too scared of Ancients either in reality.
No,
I mean,
they don't have any crushing, right?
They have crushing 1. A few attacks. They're not bad necessarily, but they're not really going to threaten you in any way that you would care about. And not only that, you have
I don't know if I like that play because it gets it away from the. Okay, that's a better. If the pivot that he left there, right, with the way sliding works and the 2 units, wouldn't the Ancients have slid right over and leaving room for the Tyrants on a combo?
I'm not sure the Tyrants are in range. What's their move?
They're up to 15. They're 12.
Jesus. Okay, yeah, no, they're crazy fast. Then yeah, that would be bad.
I think it's one that Chris maybe didn't look at enough. Unless he's looking at it now, might prove me wrong. But yeah, exactly. Dan makes a very good point here.
Yeah.
So
Chris is bringing up a couple of equivalent size units.
Chris now realizing what you said, Danny. He's saying, "Wait, did I just give them room to get in space here?"
They're not supposed to be able to hear us, but
no, they're definitely there. Well, good players think the same way too, right? It's not surprising.
Yeah, Chris, despite the mistakes he's making so far this game, he does normally pretty well and sees most things. So yeah, he's very aware here of hey, I don't want to get double charged here. That's going to be bad news.
I don't think he's got any way to avoid it though. Where they're at.
He's going to have to pivot pretty extreme, which I think what he was trying to do initially. One of the challenges, especially the Tyrants would have, is going around that building. So I believe if he pivoted his unit, kind of he had initially where he's kind of facing more centrally. I don't see really a spot where the Tyrants can get around the Ancients. So that's what I'd be looking to do right now is kind of present that. The way he has it now is that they can just kind of slide right by that building and hit them.
Right.
If they're forced to kind of, that is only based on the premise of the Ancients. We're not going to slide. They're going to move first and have to slide over first. So when you do that, you have to make sure that the Tyrants can't fit. Again, maybe Chris is thinking, hey, I want to make it so you can't fit here anyway. So
I think currently he's checking where the leader points line up to see who's going to end up on which side.
Which side?
Sure
Yes.
That the Ancients will slide towards the bottom of the field. Yeah.
Right, because that's also something that it's what the leader point lines up, right?
Yeah.
So which is not always the majority of the unit. So sometimes you get some wonky situations that look like they slide over more than they do. So,
yeah.
Definitely, again, as you expect from Chris, kind of playing very tight and catching those little details that make sure it doesn't get caught off guard on Kyle's turn.
He's still thinking about it.
Yeah, still thinking about it. I'm excited to see the Grokkamok combat. I think that's going to be quite wild here. Does anyone know how much damage Grokkamok's supposed to do? I mean, his rolls are so crazy, right? Like 7 attacks, it's on 3s. What does that even mean? I mean, they blast D3s, like...
Oh, I've seen times where he only does a couple because he just whiffs on attacks, right? So
right, exactly.
Or you roll low on the blast and then, right?
Yeah.
All right, Boomer's on the geckos now. Doing 4 wounds.
4 wounds. That's not very good. They hit on 4s, right? And then
Yeah.
Rolls a 3. They don't even care. Yeah, they're just... And that's, again, one of those things I kind of expected to come here is that,
Well,
they just don't hit hard.
yeah, they're not expected to break that unit on the charge, which is what made that charge even worse.
Right, I agree. You're wasting tons of time here, right? You're basically stuck here, and I mean, even if you did kill in 1 turn, I think it's still not worth it. So the fact that there's a chance you couldn't do it, yeah, not.
Here comes Grok.
Okay, so I think. Oh, wow, 6 hits, very strong rolls. These are D3 rolls. Oh, that is going to be bad news for Cyle.
14, yeah.
Yeah,
14 hits.
14 hits.
Absolutely devastating.
Oh boy.
Yep. And I believe he's crushing 3.
He's crushing 4, I think. He's like
No,
Crushing 3.
He's
okay.
3 with
It doesn't
brutal.
matter.
Yeah,
He's 3
brutal.
is enough.
He
Yeah.
times 4.
See, looking at 14 wounds, absolutely devastating.
Oh.
Yeah, that's absolutely brutal.
And a 12.
Yeah. He said take him off the board. Yeah, and Kyle's very quick to listen to him and follow through with that. Okay, this
authority.
Again changes things quite a bit on this side here. Like I said, well done.
Because now he's got 5 wounds on him. It's a single dragon might be able to pick him up.
That's where the 5 wounds come into play now, right? So you kind of expected Grokkamok to do those Grokkamok things. So it's now, can he take the counterpunch, right? Can he take a hit? But again,
with hitting on 4s from the dragons, I mean, it's not guaranteed, right? I mean,
it's swingy for sure.
Yeah. But
so I think if I were Chris, I would sidestep Grok towards that building to make sure only 1 dragon can charge next turn, because I think where he is, they both might be able to clip him.
yeah, I'm worried about Chris not checking that right now. So again, these double dragons have been the theme of the game here so far.
Yeah. Well, you didn't used to be able to sidestep after combat. That's a new change in 3rd edition. So you might not.
Absolutely, and that's one of my favorite rule changes as well, as far as the tactical flexibility you get from multi-charging now with being able to sidestep and get out of the way.
For sure.
Kind of things. It's a big deal here. Looks like should be front, right. Okay, so we had a
should have been a front charge. Okay.
Yep, looks like they're kind of correcting a movement from earlier. They're making sure that the siege breakers
should have been in the front instead of flank.
I think that makes things better for Chris, right? Because then sidestepping the building actually becomes a better move. But it looks like he just pivoted downward.
Well, it's going to depend on where some of these pivots end up here. I think he should be good, because again, he's going to have to check these dragons here. He doesn't want to get 2 dragons. You want to really avoid the double dragon combo. So with those wide bases, it should be doable, I think, here. It's one of those things.
Yeah, he looks like he's okay there.
Okay, so he's fine where he is.
So Grokkamok says, "All right, you bring on your dragon, right? See what you got." And I'm sure Kyle's very happy to give it to him. So we'll have to wait and see.
Oh no, it looks like maybe he just undid.
Oh, no. He did undo his move.
That's interesting.
Yeah, exactly. These 5 wounds are such a big deal right now. It's hard to explain. Maybe Chris says 1 dragon is even scary enough. I'll let you have both dragons. At least those dragons are locked up at that point, right? Who knows?
Yeah, for sure. No, that actually is a good point.
Yeah, sometimes you want to let, you give your opponent. I give my opponent flank charges or rear charges and say, overcommit to them, please.
I believe Chris just snaked some.
He totally did the fire spray.
Oh my gosh!
The siege breakers.
Oh boy! Siege
it
breakers,
rained
you're correct. And Spire came into play.
Could that actually be pretty good on Chris's part, though? Because that means the siege breakers are 100% safe, right?
For another turn, yeah.
Yeah, but he could have killed the Ember Sprites and backed up an inch, and the dragon wouldn't have been able to fit in between Grok and the goblins.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I'm not I don't think Chris would necessarily think it's going to help him necessarily.
I wonder,
it doesn't hurt him.
I wonder where the measure from 12 from the objective is, because we got to remember too. What is this, turn 4?
It's the bottom of 3.
Bottom of 3. Okay, so yeah, the dragon's got
enough time.
Yeah.
The goblins come out swinging here because I'm going to wounds on those swarms as well. Not sure which unit they're attacking, to be very honest. I assume
It's
the
like
one
the
that
front.
I think the front.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have rolled
Yeah.
the nerve already.
That's right. Yep. So there you go.
Picks them up. Okay.
That's nice.
There you go.
Those
Very nice.
goblins are actually nice.
Very
position,
annoying,
yeah.
right? It was
Yeah.
that's
I know.
the strength of goblins in situations, or in units like that.
Kind of in a rough spot for what to do with them, though. Yeah, just send them
Nah,
forward.
I
You
think-
can't
yeah.
really turn them because the siege breakers are in the way now.
Here, the Lycodons actually come into their own being forward like they are, right? Because now
Right.
they're
Yeah.
chaff for that unit.
Holding, he says, screw it, we're staying right there.
Right, because the dragons can't get in. If you move at all, then the dragons
they
have a
can.
flank on you.
Yeah.
Right.
So the reason, Jake, why I think there's such a problem to Snake Eyes there,
Mhm.
even though at first like, hey, they're safe, right? The problem is that Drakamok, I believe, is not safe right now, and
Right. Okay.
you're basically giving your opponent only one option, which is
And then you don't have a counterpunch.
and you're
into
limited
them.
with your counterplay. So he would have much rather had those swarms dead. And I think the way he positioned it too is that the swarms on the other unit swarms is not able to charge the siege breakers right now. Not that assuming that the swarms are gone. So Chris was expecting more counterplay to kind of what's going to happen here. Instead, he's going to be kind of stuck. So.
Yep. Top turn
right.
4, Kyle is trying to figure out how to get this
Yeah.
multi-charge in on these
Yeah.
siege breakers down here.
It's interesting. I want to point out still how much those boomers being shifted more to Chris's to the right flank of Cyle really changes the dynamic. I almost wonder if those had been deployed closer to the center, they would have probably been able to, threaten either flank depending where the dragons go. And I think that's probably showing some inexperience that Chris has with ogres, because I'm guessing a more experienced ogre player probably would have positioned
So
those
are
slightly
they
differently.
thinking that the ancients have to go to the top here? Because I was under the impression that they would have to go to the bottom.
I think when he measured it, it looked like they were going to have to go to the bottom as well.
But
maybe-
Dan's right in that the way they're measuring seems to imply the otherwise. Let's see here. Let's see if I can kind of draw a line myself here. Yeah, I don't see it.
One thing that would be nice for UB for playing Kings of War would be a clear unit leader point marker on the
Yes.
unit. Oh,
Completely agree. That's
Yeah.
the one thing that you kind of eyeball it now, and in most
Another-
cases it works. But based on Kyle's
Yeah.
reaction here, it looks like he's not able to fit both units, which
Yeah.
Which is what Chris was looking for, right?
exactly. Yeah, Chris
Yeah.
says.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Siege breakers don't have a problem taking a charge from ancients. Again, ancients aren't the most aggressive.
No, they're
unit
not
game, so-
killy.
Right, so he's very happy to take a charge from them, and then also in return do tons of damage to that unit that's already quite hurt. So that side is looking good for Chris. I'll say Chris is definitely coming back, keeping this competitive. Again, you look at the scenario. The one thing I was like look at in a game is like which player kind of decides to play the scenario.
Mhm.
So when you look at that, the you kind of changes your play style a bit or changes your actions a bit. I see the way that things are shaping up here. The left is not, Kyle cleaned up that left side kind of early, but at the same time he's struggling to kind of make much of it yet. So, if especially if Grakamok lives another turn, I could see him
That's
doing
huge,
some really
yeah.
nasty things. Yeah, absolutely. So,
Especially because, even one more turn with Grok is essentially free time for Chris, because I'm assuming, thinking he's going to die this turn.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. There's units you expect to die. And even this turn again dies here. The name of the game now is look at the right side of the board. You have 3 hordes of ogres, a regiment of rabble, and a character. You have 9, 10, 12 unit strength on that side of the board.
Mhm. Are the
Yeah.
Rebel unit strength 3?
I think
Two.
there's 2 or 3.
Two.
Are they
They're 2.
2? Yeah. So you have 3 from the
That's still
hordes. Right?
15 sitting there.
Oh, yep. Yeah, it's 9, 10, 12 unit strength.
Okay, so 12. Yeah, so 12 on the right side. How much does Kyle even have left on the table right now? Right. That's my question here.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 total.
Right. So the unit strength is quite even, and if siege breakers start doing siege breaker things, killing stuff, that's going to go down very quickly. So.
So question here, because it's 2 boomer units sitting there, I guess it's only one because one of them just tied itself up. But is moving those tyrants over to that flank that's lost actually?
I think that's a mistake, because it opens them up to getting shot up. For
Yeah, especially with
very
only
little
defense
reasons.
4, right? It's gonna take 2 rounds of shooting from those boomers.
And it being Kyle's, assuming those ancients die, really the only unit left that he has that has any real unit strength, right?
Unless he's planning on just jumping the dragons over the siege breakers and threatening the boomers with them.
Right.
Well,
Right,
he's
like-
gonna have to.
Well,
I
we've
think.
seen how devastating the tyrants are, right? They pick up the
Right.
unit chairs like it's no big deal. I think Kyle's assuming, hey, like your siege breakers aren't safe yet, right? So I'm gonna come at you.
Yeah.
Again, I do kind of agree that it seals their fate more or less. That their chances of them living this whole game is very unlikely now.
So it looks like he's just gonna chap up Grok and use Lycodons to shoot him down. So that means that he's probably gonna move aggressively with those dragons over on the far flank.
Mhm.
Okay, so he looks like he kind of made the same assessment we did in the sense of hey, yeah, I'm kind of losing this unit strength battle in a way. I need to. I can't just wrap up the left side. It's not enough to win the game right now. I need to put heat on the guys on the right. I actually like that a lot because that says the boomers, first of all, one unit's gonna be stuck fighting Gekats and warriors,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other unit's gonna be,
Oh,
wait a second.
what's happening here?
So he charged the siege breakers with those Ember Sprites that got snaked last time to slide
And
them
then
up
he
and
gets
open
the
up
flank
just
of the
enough spot.
goblins,
to get
right?
the flank,
Flank
yeah.
on the goblins. All right. Bit overkill, right? So
Yeah, why is my question?
yeah, let's call it like fishing
to-
with hand grenades, right? Or yeah.
Yeah, I guess to get it out of the front of Grok, to get it into the game, to get it within the scoring zone. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it does remove some of Chris's scoring stuff, but
Maybe it's
Oh,
like
yeah, the
he's
year does-
listening
yeah.
to us.
No, I mean it's okay to explore all those possibilities there.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to grab another beer on this decision-making process. I'll be right back.
Yep.
All right.
So what's
Alright.
interesting about this ogre list is, realistically, even though we're looking at third edition, it doesn't look that different than what I would have expected to see in a second edition ogre army.
Right.
No, I don't think so. It's got all the usual suspects.
So here, because he's locked up his own boomers again,
Yep.
I'm actually still surprised he's flanking that goblin unit, because I would have figured he'd move both dragons over there aggressively.
Yeah, this puts him in an
And
odd
neither
spot, right?
Yeah, and neither one of them are in danger if you move them over there to from the boomers unit.
Well,
The
no,
boomer unit can't-
Importantly, he turns with the boomers and shoots the dragon. A front charge from the dragon isn't great it's probably not going to break those boomers. And then that, I mean, I guess what he's doing is saying shoot the tyrants or shoot the dragon.
Right. Exactly. And the tyrants aren't going to come kill your boomers, but the dragon will if you leave the flank to it. And
But
the tyrants are more unit strength and in the
it's
scoring zone.
Kyle's turn 4.
Yep.
Those tyrants aren't going to get into combat until turn 6 at the earliest.
Right.
Well,
So he could
okay,
just be
maybe
putting
not.
them there for scoring
Maybe not,
purposes.
'cause I guess those siege breakers are going to break those ancients next turn.
Here's
even
where
so,
some nice
tyrants-
warlock spells could really change the dynamic here,
Yeah.
because the warlocks have that flexibility between drain life and lightning bolt to keep some units in the battle
And
longer.
that's what makes it even sillier to move those tyrants like that, because tyrants aren't going to beat siege breakers in a front battle.
What's the tyrants crushing? Is it crushing too?
Crushing 2.
Nerve check on Grok coming up.
That was enough. It's a reroll.
8 and a 9. That's a 17.
17. Yep, that's a real.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, he's fine. He's not even wavered.
that's pretty nice. I mean, he's going to just kill Ember Sprites, right? But
Yeah.
Right.
And then
but he's
keep,
not dead yet.
that's
He's
more
shooting
that's
an
more unit strength that he's peeling off of Kyle. Importantly,
Yeah.
All right. Ember Sprites on the Siege Breakers. Probably not going to do much. And moving on.
Yeah.
Dragon in the flank of some goblins that are already wounded. This should be.
Oh, yeah. This
Yeah.
should be snakes.
Oh, good God. You be
Oh, yeah.
dice.
Oh, no. It didn't matter. 12 wounds.
12 wounds.
Still,
here's
right?
where
That's
Snake
still
Eyes could be
Plus
devastating,
6.
right?
But he
One more
did
for
it.
Grok.
Yeah, I
Now
think
he can
Kyle might
pivot the
be-
dragon and it'll be in the flank of the Siege Breakers. So
but I don't know. Still don't like it.
Yeah, it's putting the it's essentially guaranteeing that Blue Dragon is not going to hit that right flank, right?
Well, and plus the siege breakers, like Grok is gonna charge those fire sprites, beat them up. Those siege breakers are gonna beat that other unit of fire sprites up and just give the dragon a front charge.
Right,
So
and then
the dragon can't beat him up that way.
Potentially, the Lycodon might get a flank on Siege Breakers, maybe, but probably not. Yeah, it's trading pieces too slow, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And like he's losing all of his unit strength and not taking unit strength in return.
Yeah.
And it looks like he did not get those Siege Breakers down on the bottom side of the table.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. They've only got like 12 attacks sitting on 3s, right? Yeah, with crushing 1.
I've got a question from Mike Rossi asking, is this being recorded for future consumption for people who couldn't make the live cast?
Yeah, this is being streamed live to YouTube, and as soon as it's done, just like with any live stream, it'll be available on the Dash 28 channel.
Awesome.
Oh, Alex is back, so I'm going to add him back into the stream now.
Yep.
Hey, Alex.
Hey.
Oh, bump me out and in so that way I'm on the bottom and Alex.
No, you're fine right there.
More
Dan,
important.
all right.
That's fine.
Well, Dan
So that brings up a good point, Mike. Since there's going to be the Dash 28 channel. If people are watching this and liking it, be sure to subscribe to Dash 28's channel so that when future casts come up, if you miss them, you have access to them easier.
Definitely.
Yep.
And also like if people dig these and want us to do more of them, we can, but we need games to stream. So Call to Arms is going on, and there's more rounds coming up, and there's more interesting matchups coming up. So if there's some of the top tables or some particularly interesting matchups that people want to see, definitely let us know, and we'll get in touch with some of the players, or if you got a match coming up that you want to stream or want to maybe somebody out there wants to guest commentate or something like that. Like this is up we're trying out. We're all stuck at home. We're all looking to entertain each other. If you want to join in, let us know. Just like we love having guest article submissions to the site, we would love having some more people come and participate in this with us. This is supposed to be a platform for the community to show off games and talk about games. So we'd love to see participation from more folks out there.
Yep, and I was going to say, this is new to all of us, so if you guys have any feedback, we can take that too. So appreciate any comments and critiques and whatnot.
Absolutely.
So I'm really surprised that Chris is even considering backing off those Siege Breakers.
Yeah, so...
Because he should be just picking up unit strength wherever he can here, just to press his advantage.
Alex, to catch you up, importantly, Grakamak is still live.
See that. He took some shots, looks like, and survived.
Yep.
So again, probably likely on, gonna die soon, but I kind of agree that he should be picking up every piece of unit strength he picks up right now is absolutely crucial to the game. So Siege Breakers are very much full strength and very threatening.
This is where I think some of the things that really make Kings of War go from fun to amazing comes into play because, from a kill perspective, Chris has really been on the back foot the entire game. But when you work in unit strength and scenario play, it really changes this end dynamic of the game. And Canny, keeping focus on the prize can really make you still part of it, even if you're down on the ability to kill important units.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely true. And that's the one thing I'll say is that when I saw this board setup, I thought Chris had the better scenario setup when it came to having more unit strength available on that right side where, it was going to be piloting units. And it looks like he's going to continue to keep doing that, just moving forward, taking shots.
That's
a good move with those boomers, getting them out of sight of the...
Right.
Charging them.
Oh, he's straight up charging them.
That is really interesting.
Huh. I didn't even see that.
I don't agree with that one either.
Yeah, that would be...
they were definitely
thinking...
Well, because I guess his thought... are already going to beat up those...
But I guess his thought is it gets it out of sight of the dragon, basically meaning that the dragon doesn't have a target.
Although where he had pivoted it before actually would have already done that. He would have had shots on the tyrants.
Yeah.
I gotta agree with Dan. I would have taken the pot shots on the tyrants. I mean, I think right now his priority should be healing the Siege Breakers with Drain Life.
Yep.
And then also just keeping the unit strength away from the tyrants. Because tyrants, as nasty as they are, I don't know if they can handle a full
I don't think so. Yeah.
Unit of Siege Breakers. So
no.
Well, looks like he's about to
wounds already.
Looks like he's about to drain life the geckos, possibly healing the Siege Breakers.
What did the Siege Breakers on this left flank do? Did they just...
Looks like they're on the flank of the sprites now, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, and they charged the flank before Grok
moved. Yeah.
Yep.
Which I don't know if I agree with that one either, because wouldn't he want everything in the front of those Siege Breakers? doing it after would have pulled both the Lycodons in front too.
Right, but the way he's now is that he can pivot and at least kill Lycodons, right? The dragon decides to kind of fly off.
Yeah,
Whereas
Yeah,
if
they
that
want
is-
filters.
he'd be too close, then they have room to
Yeah.
kind of get around and shoot maybe. So
So,
he only
so
did
Chris
one
only getting
move
one,
Drain Life.
one success with Drain Life. Yeah,
That's rough. Yeah.
that
against
is a big
geckos.
one.
Yeah, he should have done more than that.
Absolutely.
Either way,
yeah.
those Siege
There's
Breakers are
EV
still
dice
good to
coming
go
in.
with only 3 wounds.
Yeah, that's that. I'm a little scared for those ones now. So
All right, melee. We got some red goblins in the flank.
Oh, look at them go.
yeah, this time this should be really the wounds should pile on here. I doubt they will
Yeah.
hit this one, and I don't think they're inspired either. Oh,
I
Let's take a
think.
look
Yeah,
here.
no, I think the ancients are
That'll
too
do
far
it.
away.
Yep.
Yep, that will definitely do it.
so yep, you got him once, got him.
So he probably pivots the
Yeah,
boom.
can you give us arc on that red dragon if you could, Mike? I need to see.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
He's
so
just
we're
gotta
no
face
skipping
them.
that. So we're gonna have to just kind of face the music here.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. That's
Which-
good.
Yeah, again, it's a healthy unit of relatively healthy unit of boomers. It should
And
be
15
should be
attacks
good.
on 4 is not. I mean, it's not great, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think I hesitate if I'm trying to read the dragon here. I hesitate whether I go into the front of those with especially with 2 turns left in the game here, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's kind of stuck on what to do with these goblins, though. Like, ideally, I would want to send them closer to the middle, but he can't really get them around.
well, to be honest though, the goblins, I guess they're the easier unit strength to pick up, but at unit strength 2, I don't think it's enough.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. So it looks like we're rolling right into the next combat.
I wonder if those
And boomers in
goblins
the
are
flank
within
of the
12 of the objective. They look like they are.
They aren't 3, 6, 9. Well, they're
It just has to be majority, right? So that's only
Right,
the
but-
edge. It does have to be majority.
exactly.
But with a pivot, they can move in pretty easy. So
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so see the wounds starting to pour in here. A lot of 6s there. Team nice. So I see 8 wounds on the first crack at it.
This is the flank on the sprites. It doesn't matter.
Oh,
Oh no,
You
the
sure?
other one here.
I
Yeah.
think this is the
No, this is Siege Breakers in the front.
Yeah,
This
Siege
is-
Breakers
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
get to the front there. Yeah, there's already 8 wounds in that unit, so they're looking like
Yeah, they're gone.
they just took it to the face. Yep.
All
Yeah.
right.
Okay. So again,
So now what do you do with these boomers, though, to keep them?
right. So that's
Safe.
also my concern as well here. I mean, I don't even know if they have room to do anything, to be honest.
So
Okay.
they had
They could-
6
they could
wounds
back
on
up.
them there. So if you look at it, they did 9 wounds to Siege Breakers alone. That would have
They
taken
did.
them up to 15, right? So I don't know. I just didn't think those. I just don't like the boomers there because the boomers can't even
yeah.
pivot there either. They can't back up.
Right.
They're just going
Right.
to get stuck.
Yeah,
Right,
you
they're
can
stuck in the
maybe
building.
try to pivot you can maybe
Sidestep
sidestep
towards
the
the Warlock?
Siege Breakers. And,
Yeah, I guess his thought was he was worried the Siege Breakers didn't pop the Ancients, but I mean, they were
Yeah.
easily going to do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think that's just not worth. I think the payoff there. I don't know if it was there again.
I think
maybe
you got to
in the
walk the
moment.
Siege Breakers forward and hope that they walk forward far enough to cover the boomers' flank.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is he did that pretty fast, so he clearly like saw it and thought he would take it, but I didn't see him like checking stuff as much as I have with some of his other moves.
Right.
Right. I can understand the concern. Like, you want to make sure you pick up a unit like that. You think about the potential of not being able to.
Can you click on that Siege Breakers? Are they front?
Yeah, I would assume so.
They're
Yep.
front.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they're front.
Yeah, a clean little play there from Chris.
Yeah, that's good.
It's actually not bad at all. Yeah. I
Yeah,
kinda
those
like it.
tyrants can't even touch the boomers. That's actually better than a better end result than I was expecting.
Yeah. So props to Chris for seeing that and getting in position good.
Other Siege Breakers on the flank of the sprites should be academic.
Yep.
Oh,
Of course, they should have been last time, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
And now Grok on
slight
the.
pivot there. Yep, that's exactly what I expected.
So
here.
I think we're seeing here. I mean, Chris is really pulling a lot of momentum back in this last
Yeah.
turn. He's looking in a really good spot now,
If we count the unit strength here, we still have the same amount for Chris.
right?
And
Yeah.
he just the
He
numbers
just
are
tore
hanging
through
for Kyle.
Kyle's, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Kyle's gonna need to. So honestly, I think Kyle's gonna start taking some risks here and hoping for some big swings
And
here.
Kyle's going to be really hard pressed to take out even a unit a turn with those dragons, right? Because they're not, combined charging anything the way they're positioned. They don't have good flanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this
So what do you
again,
do with
that was
Grok
my
here? Basically, just
concern
leave
with
him
the
away?
dragons. Why I thought you really want a dragon to get around the flanks of a unit early. So I can't go back to that fun chariot charge, but I really feel like he would have been better served here, kind of trying to get around the side. And I don't know if Cobb maybe plays a lot of dragons, right? I don't
Right.
historically he's known to kind of a he calls like
A goblin trash, right?
Yeah, the trash meta, right? So
Yeah, he's used to
maybe-
giants, not the dragons.
exactly dragons they play a little differently. So it could be that he's he maybe didn't know how to quite push the advantage a bit with the dragons when he
So
had
here
it.
you go. He's taking risks like you're talking
is.
about.
He's
Lots
definitely
of front
pressing his
charges.
luck.
Right.
Definitely pressing his luck with those tyrants on the siege breakers in the front, leaving boomers.
good
at the
news
flank.
there-
And
There's
I
that-
imagine his dragon goes into the siege breakers, and then the Lycodons hope to kill Grok.
That's pretty
With
much
shooting,
what
yeah.
you have to do.
Yep.
But he needs a lot of luck looking at the way most of those are going to pan out.
And here's
Yeah,
where
no,
Green Life's
that
going to be
blue
really
dragons.
nice.
Yeah, that blue dragon's not going to do anything to those siege breakers in the front by itself.
Right,
Only got one wound
right.
on him.
That's
Oh,
one thing
yeah.
with dragons. You pay for a lot of things when you come to dragons. The one thing you don't get with that value is a lot of damage to the front, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you just don't get. If you look at the points per damage, you're not doing anywhere
This is
near.
an interesting play
even-
here. He's essentially looks
Oh
like
yeah,
he
looks
might
like
be-
he's trying to move away. So, which I don't blame.
Yeah.
I mean, pivot moves 13.5. So he can't pivot again. So he's stuck with facing that way.
It essentially lets those siege breakers stay scoring, and the problem is he loses those tyrants. If those Lycodons die, then that siege breaker horde alone wins the game.
Yeah.
It's a very good point. It's a very good point. And yeah,
And I mean, I don't think those tyrants survive, right?
No.
I don't know. I mean, they could roll hot here and kill that unit of.
If they pick up the siege breakers and turn to face
Yes,
the boomers,
exactly.
they're in good shape.
Yeah,
If they're
that's
full
true,
health
that's true.
facing the unit
That's
of
a big
boomers,
ask, though.
yeah, it's going to come down to that combat, and they're a very nasty unit.
Oh,
So
he might have changed his mind.
Yep.
maybe decided that
It's just not going to cut it.
yeah, exactly. Because I kind of like him into the siege breakers. I think
Yeah.
with some luck you can grind them out, right?
I mean, what he
And-
could do is he could charge Lycodon into siege breakers, the dragon into Grok, and then use basically one by a
Can
turn
you
for
click
chapping.
on that top unit of siege breakers? I wonder if they're majority in at the moment. Yeah, they are. They're definitely.
They are. I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah, I think they're already scoring.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. So, oof,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
even.
pivoting twice here. So, staying out of range now. The siege breakers maybe going to shoot him. I guess it would be a
In the
flank shot.
flank.
You would get some
Yeah.
damage in there.
No
Not a bad
piercing,
idea.
15 attacks, defense 5. I don't know. I don't love it.
No,
Yeah.
man.
I mean, you have turn 5, you have a turn 6, you have maybe a turn 7. Is 3 rounds of little fireballs going to be enough to kill Siegebreaker Horde? I don't know.
And if it is, even so, you're tying up half of your unit strength almost on.
I wonder how much he's going to gamble here. If the one Lycodon gets 1 or 2 wounds, does he shoot the other one into the siege breakers?
Right. Yeah, Grokkamok is still a thing, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Grokkamok
Yeah, I
will
think that-
tear
that-
apart
that-
the Lycodon.
I think that bottom of turn 4 swing from Chris Fisher's got Kyle. Definitely got Kyle on the back foot for kind of the first time in this game.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting the way this game works, where the momentum swing back and forth as far as the scenario play. And
Oh, that was not a good
Oh
start.
no! The Kilodon whiffs.
Oh, man.
Second one,
Ouch.
too.
Oh, it didn't even wound.
Oh no!
Now the dragon has to shoot
Now
him.
Grok is in such a good position.
yeah, so here comes the dragon on Grok, putting
3
some
wounds.
wounds. At least has he
That should do it.
3 wounds on him?
Yeah.
Puts
Okay,
him at
so
11.
he's up to 11, right? So
Yeah, I mean,
pretty reasonable kill here. And at very least a likely waiver.
It's a
Let's-
4 to waiver, 6 to route.
Oh, no. Oh no,
That is catastrophic.
Oh, you got to feel for that one, man. That is quite unfortunate, man. That is not the
Oh, no.
time you want to roll a 3.
and that
Nice.
spells the doom of both those Lycodons, I think.
I'm drinking this one for you, Kyle. That was yeah.
Pouring out for my homie there.
Yeah, really.
Yep.
All right. Well, moving on.
I think that
Melee.
may
The
be a
red
deal
dragon in
there.
front of the boomers up there.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. So 7 hits. It looks like converted
range.
into 6 damage, if I read that correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that puts them up to 8 total.
8 total with a 7 on the nerve.
15.
That's a
Believe
waiver.
waiver.
That's what we
Believe
read.
you hit a waiver roll. Yeah. That's gonna
That's
do.
solid.
Definitely gonna do. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is he's got, you know,
Well, it buys him that extra turn to finish them off.
this is the
This
big
is the crucial one. He needs to break these guys. So waiver is not enough.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we'll see this next combat again. All these combats are so pivotal in the game. It comes down to these key combats, right? So, let's see here. 30 attacks,
14 hits. 5 wounds. That's not enough.
No. 8
Definitely
inspired.
not. Even the vicious rolls looks like or no, I'm sorry, that's the
It's a
Yeah.
effigy of fire.
effigy.
The
Yeah,
effigy
so
didn't cut it.
even with
That's
that,
the
again, the
5,
defense 6,
8.
very nasty.
So 7 to waiver, 9 to route.
Twice.
Yep. And Kyle there kind of realizing that he didn't quite get it.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh,
but
there's
I
the
say that
9.
and he rolls a 9. That puts him at
Oh.
And a
then
10.
10.
That'll
Oh, that is huge.
That is really
Absolutely
huge.
Whew.
do it. Kyle not even waiting for Chris to pick up the unit before he
That's
goes.
right. Yeah, it's a little disrespect there. You just kind of fling them off and just take them off the table, right? It's equivalent of pushing units away and
Well,
That's a
and
big
say
swing.
next,
Too.
right?
still a
So
huge ask for
Yeah.
salamanders here, but
Kyle needed that here because
at least gives him a chance.
yeah,
absolutely agree.
yeah.
Yeah. So now you have boomers with a point blank shot on them, bottom of 5.
This game really showing that no matter how on the back foot you feel, it's worth continuing to pull those tight movements and keeping the game. Because I mean, if you had asked me turn 3 what it was looking like for Chris, I was going to say a slow descent into losing, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know that's the strength of ogres in playing here, and you know, again, he rolled a 3 on the Grokkamok, but then come around the other side table, he rolls a 9 twice and picks up the
Right.
unit. So you know,
Yeah.
that's a absolutely
Chris
big
deciding
deal.
to go for the safer kills here by going after those Lachilodons instead of trying to go in on a dragon.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's a
yeah,
great call.
Just pick
He had
up
no
the unit
choice in
strength.
terms of
2
dragon.
unit strength, right? Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
take the unit strength out. Put you force him to shoot Grokkamok again, right? So it's really
Right.
you're
Yeah.
going to put your opponent like again. We kind of talked about earlier with those siege breakers are more or less safe now. That very low chance they die.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
if we're looking at the table
And-
here,
And they're scoring already.
that's
Yeah.
that's a
So
big deal.
here's the question. I mean, do the boomers charge into the tyrants or they stay back and shoot? I mean, obviously
Shoot.
they shoot.
So
Yep.
it's a good
Backing
question.
up, shoot, turn around, drain life.
No, they definitely shoot.
I mean, one thing you got to keep in mind is that ogres actually they technically
They do the same damage
more. No, they actually do more in combat actually than
because
they
of brutal,
because they have brutal on the nerve roll. Yeah. So
Right.
and you can drain
theoretically-
life. Yeah.
And you can drain
Right.
life into combat. Yeah.
yeah,
But
exactly.
they're crush 1, right? They're pierce 2 with the shooting.
They're
Pierce
Pierce
1,
one.
Pierce 1.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
You're thinking
Yeah.
the longer range shooters.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So in theory they actually with that brutal check at least you have a chance to kill a unit, right? I think you might as well do it here personally. I think if you're Chris,
Yeah.
he decides.
That's-
Looks
that-
like he decides.
Oh no,
Might be
he's gonna
Chris's-
chap
Oh,
it
here
with
cheeky
the
moves. Maybe the
warlock.
warlock's time to step
He's
up and
gonna
sacrifice
chap
himself.
it with the warlock.
If you're
That's a
chapping, then
good.
everything goes out the window. We just said, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good.
Alright.
There's a good play.
Yeah.
Chris is smarter
Very
than all of us. Okay, fine.
Very nicely seen. Yeah, that's these little moves
Is
here
that
make
warlock
a huge
still
difference.
within
Right?
6 of the boomers for drain life?
Let's see.
It is.
Yeah, it
Wow.
So
Yeah, that's really
Thank you.
nice.
exactly,
That's
this could be
very
do for a big roll here
beautiful.
too. Keep in mind the fact that
Yeah,
that
there's
building
double
is not
tap.
gonna let him
Yeah,
fit.
Yeah.
No chance. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
very
building's in the way.
slick on Chris's part. I think
That's
very
really
slick.
good. Well
So
played.
Kyle gonna realize that the unit's is gonna be out of position there. Yep. And then there's again some drain life here too. Is and then they're he could be up for a big drain life roll, right? Last time he only did 1 wound. My head I'm like, oh, here comes around.
Here comes the big one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's-
So
Well, the huge thing here is it's making it so that tyrant unit can only pick up 1 unit strength next turn.
that's right,
Exactly.
exactly. And can he even sustain fire from boomers for 2 turns. I don't even know.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's too far from the dragon to be
The
inspired.
warlock is 12, 14.
And he's
nerve.
uninspired.
I mean,
Is that right?
Yeah, he's too far from the dragon to be inspired. Where he currently
Oh,
is.
so that
No,
also
wait.
leaves him.
yeah,
so-
you're right. Yep.
some spiky rolls here could even work in Chris's favor as well. So yeah,
Yep.
I gotta say I'm impressed. Impressed how well Chris is playing this game here. Keeping his cool under the pressure. Right, a lot of times you have 2 dragons in your flank, you just tend to kind of
Fall
crumble
apart,
and take
right.
some crazy risks. And Chris said, you know what, I'm not done yet. So, all credit to him so far to hanging in there.
I wonder what he's trying to think with these goblins. I think he's pretty happy at this point in the game to have gone second. I mean, we talked about how the first, going first was really important early on, but in this end game, having that last move is huge, right? Because he can play a little bit more defensively with those
Yeah,
guys.
he's intentionally leaving them out of 12 right now to be able to move them in the last turn.
4 hits with drain life and 3 wounds.
3
Oh.
wounds. That's nice. That's
Quite
real
nice.
nice.
Quite nice, yeah.
That's a big start.
And then
Yeah,
he's going to
absolutely.
pull those wounds off of the boomers there. Yep.
Yep. So again, that leaves their chances of living that much more likely, right? So,
Yep.
yeah, Chris and Kyle only you know, on turn 6, you kind of assume when you're playing the game, you kind of assume the game's going to end on 6, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So Kyle's really only have one crack to kind of get him. Okay, I see
What,
some
6 wounds?
6.
6 more wounds. Ooh,
That's
And a 9.
that's
9
real
uninspired.
yeah, that puts him in the danger zone, especially because they're uninspired. So this is
Yeah, 8 to kill.
8 to straight kill him. Yeah, it's not unreasonable.
It's probably the math that Chris is doing in his head right now.
right.
Exactly. I like it. Leave us in suspense here.
Oh,
Oh.
just missed.
7. And the
Oh,
fear
wow.
is coming into play, right?
But no, same thing. He just only gets to eat 1 unit strength. So
Right. And then he
Yep.
gets shot in the face again.
Absolutely. Yep. One shy.
So
Very close.
there's some irony here. If he had charged into combat, he would have broke them.
That's very correct. That
With the
brutal would
brutal,
have done it.
yeah, it would have actually.
Yep.
Because he
So-
could have done those drain lives the same, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
correct. But I do like Chris's play better. I think he
It's
had
the safer, right? Right.
He definitely played it the safer way for sure.
I'm sure there's some veteran ogre players out there right now yelling, "Should have used brutal."
Yeah, exactly right. So looks like he's gonna eat some Lechalons now. Just
What's
It's
their
gonna be
nerve?
the-
Are they 12, 14?
They're dead.
11, 13. Oh, yeah, they're
Yeah.
super dead. So
those,
here's the tough choice. So he pivots.
Oh no, you just give the front to the dragon. Oh, actually, it depends. Because he can back up next turn. He's still
Yeah,
has
that'll put him in.
right?
Exactly. Yep. He's in good position there.
I may pivot to get them straighter on where the center is. Just so that the backup actually goes further back. But
looks like he decided that was good enough. So he's moving on.
Grok is really, I mean, he had a slow start, and it was a couple of dicey instances where we thought he was just going to die, but he's really made his points back.
He
well,
has
the fact that he's still alive
a
is
weak
brutal.
roll rock here, but let's see what happens.
6 hits and
Yeah, he only
4
converts into
4
4
wounds.
wounds. Not entirely high, but
Oh, that's
roll, and he rolls another big nerve.
Nice.
I think it picks up anyways.
yep. Brutal. That'll
It
do
says,
it.
I'm not the only one that can roll hot here on nerve rolls. Says,
he beat it by 1 with brutal. Yep.
Yeah, are they
Yep.
figuring out the brutal?
yeah, you got it. It's one
There
of
it
those
is,
rolls you normally don't think about until you're like, wait, let me go back and do my basic math. So, okay, end result kind of what we expected, but a little
Little bit of
dramatic
drama.
way to get there.
Yep.
Yeah,
A little
round
bit of
about
drama. That's probably going to be it for Chris's turn. Yeah.
And here's where the strength of ogre, scenario play just is super apparent.
Right. Because that blue dragon, like, sure, I can eat Grok and he's definitely gone, but he's only
Right.
1 unit strength
Or he hits the siege breakers and probably doesn't kill him,
and
then
does nothing. Right. Exactly.
right.
So do you get cheeky here and leave Grok a flank just to hope to draw your opponent into charging him?
Now this is Northern King scoring, so this is almost one of those instances where it's tempting for the dragon to jump over and just preserve his points and get in the objective zone, because then you score more points, right?
Yeah. The way they're doing the scoring is you get +1 bonus point for every scoring unit within 12 inches up to 5. They're not doing unit strength for the bonus point. So yeah, every scoring unit is just
Yeah.
straight one turn.
It looks like Grok just faced his rear to the dragon. But
But
I like it because the dragon
Mhm.
really needs to charge those siege breakers, and
Right.
it's leaving Grok line of sight to counter the dragon.
And it gives him some nice moves for turn, if there's a turn 7, he can get in great position. Or just run into the objective zone.
Off turn 6, and I will be right back to watch the end of the game.
Yeah,
So
so be
one
interesting
thing-
finish for sure.
From a modeling perspective, I always sort of think about with the salamanders is that salamanders have these dragons, but there aren't clear models that fit the salamander aesthetic that are dragon-like. What would you use model-wise to count as these dragons?
That's a good question. I think there's some cool like dragon models that I've seen converted out, like the old Carnosaurs and that kind of
Mhm.
things. They look kind of cool. I don't know. Honestly, I think any dragon kind of fit for it. To be honest, I mean, there's a lot of dragon models out there, right? When you look at
I'd love to
what-
see something that's like a like Aztec mythological kind of, because one thing that's sort of, and I mean this is like my super nitpicky hobby side coming out, but like, you know, you've got these Aztec lizard men, you know, both the geckos, the salamanders, etc., or you're using Mantix lizardmen, in which case it fits a little bit more into it. But either way, the aesthetic doesn't quite work with the Western dragon that traditionally is there. And I
Yeah.
really like to see dragons have riders, and they especially look goofy with a salamander on their back.
You're definitely
Yeah.
right about that. I've seen Mersha has some pretty cool looking lizardman style
Like an
dragon.
axolotl, right?
Yeah. So they have some kind of cool stuff there. I think it would still require a bit of conversion work to get it exactly what you talked about, but that's the closest I think I've seen to, you know.
If you weren't running phoenixes, you could use phoenix models, especially if you gave them slightly toned down flame paint schemes, and I think that could work.
For sure. Looks like
So it looks
shooting
like he's
phase.
it looks like he's moving into, you know, getting the objective zone and do some just safe shooting. But here's where Grok's position's interesting, because I think Grok has a flank.
Well, Grok is
Let's see.
facing.
He's facing
Grok
towards
is facing
siege
towards
breakers,
the
right?
north, out.
I assume that would. I think I don't know if Kyle would make that kind of mistake here. I assume
Right.
he.
No, he
Yeah.
was out.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that would be.
That'd be a big error.
Yeah, that would be a big mistake for sure. Not one you expect.
That'd be a Jake Hutton mistake right there.
Exactly right. We'll look for your battle port next. What not to do, right?
Just read the campaign when I was playing as the Night Stalkers.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I know Kyle's probably looking to score, really get some pot shots in there. Again, when you play this game, you have to assume you're going to end on 6, and I'm sure he's doing the math in his head right now, going, "This is not looking good, right? So let's get some points." And you have a couple ways to play that. I mean, there's an interesting philosophy of is do you play
He's not
for?
even majority in there, is he?
I don't know.
I don't know.
don't
It's
think
going to
so.
be a hair right there that decide that, but you know, there's a way to play the game sometimes where you can play. I'm going to lose on 6 but win on 7, right? It's not really going to come and play this game necessarily, but you know, there's a couple different philosophies. I don't know how do you guys feel about that in general. Do you normally play if you see a situation where you can kind of play for a draw or, you know, win? Do you play for the win normally, or what do you guys do?
I think it depends on your position in the tournament, right? This is a first round, so I think in first round you probably. I mean, if it was me, I'd probably play for the draw.
Okay.
But if it's like, you know, third, or if it's like fourth round, fifth round, and you're like middle of the pack, then you play for the win.
Right. I'm a fan of playing for the win. Yeah, and I think and even if it's a small chance, right? I think you go for those opportunities you can. I've always been a big fan of kind of trying to do that. Looks like some shots coming out of here, right?
Yeah, dragon shooting at the into the flank of the siege breakers did 4 wounds, and now we're into combat
right
with
to
the
the
dragon in
boomers,
front of the
and
boomers on the other side.
Kyle is said, I got somewhere to go. We're rolling these dice hot here. And I don't think he did it. Let's see here.
Yeah, he only did 5. He did 5 wounds. Yeah, so that did it.
5 wounds. Okay,
Oh.
I'm sorry. You got the math faster than I did. Okay.
Yep.
So he did
Hoping
10,
for a turn 7.
Yep. He has those guys have crushing 2, right? Is that right?
Yeah, crushing 3. Oh, the tyrant's crushing 2. Yeah.
So here's where I think once this warlock dies, you charge the boomers in, because then they get to pivot afterwards, obviously, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Probably charge the goblins into hell.
Oh, 10 wounds there on the warlock.
Yeah, that warlock is toast. There he is.
Oh, the 3. That was close. His nerf's
Warlock's
11,
13, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
They are 12-14.
Oh,
12-14.
wait a second.
No, that was 12 wounds. It was wounding on 3s, right? It's only defense 5.
Oh, there you go. Thank you for correcting us, Dan. We're making.
No, I said it wrong to begin with, so you were just following my lead. I corrected myself.
Right. Okay, getting down to the bottom of 6. Looks like, yeah.
So unit strength left on the board. We've got 5 from Kyle, and then we've got 6, 8, 9 from Chris. But Kyle's 1 is going down this turn.
Here's an interesting point, though, right? So Chris planned his turn in a way that his unit has to back up to get into the zone, right?
But
doing that exposes a flank.
Right. So doing so in turn 7, yeah.
Yeah, so this is actually a very smart play by Kyle, really a heads-up play, saying, hey, you let yourself. You have to back up to score,
And he has to back up full. Yeah. So.
and so
And Grok just can't see the
Oh,
dragon.
look at that.
so a pivot here. I don't
So
think
now
Chris
he's
is scoring.
playing
So
7 on that unit. So that unit doesn't score.
right
I
now
guess
they're not.
Chris. Yeah, I was going to say maybe Chris is thinking here. This is again I'm winning in this turn with the unit strength. Play
Right.
for turn 7.
Right. I think
Yeah.
I think you have to assume in this case, right, that you're going to kill that unit of tyrants and you're going to win, right? You have the win in the bag. Why give your opponent a chance on 7 to do stuff, right? So
Right. That's what I think. That's what I would do here, especially if he can move those goblins in, and even if moving those goblins in, even if let's say Chris whiffs across the board, he still gets a draw, and he can march Grok into a scoring zone. So I think he gets a narrow win with Grok.
Yep, can't disagree with that either. Yeah, I think
Here's an interesting position with the siege breakers. I like that.
Just turn him around. Yeah.
just turn around and
dragon
say,
in the
okay,
front.
you're right. And this is going to come down to that combat with the boomers. I don't know if we're giving him too much credit in that combat. I'm looking at the math now and thinking that's a melee 4 crush 1 attack. That's 4s and 4s. I mean it's not a lot of wounds coming out of
Can
that
the
unit.
goblins? Can the goblins charge in too? Because if they can, I don't think so.
they're in range. Yeah.
I think they just have them. I think they just barely clipped that corner. Right? 3, 6, 9, 10.
No, they're only 8, right?
Are they only 8?
No, they're move 5. The goblins.
They're move 5. Yeah.
They do clip in.
I don't know that they'll
So-
be. Well, yeah, the boomers would have to slide over up against the building to make room for them.
Right. So that's where a wound could matter, right? Every wound's going to
Yeah,
matter in that combat.
I think you put them in there for sure.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be dicey though, because you're looking at 4s and 4s, which is about 4.5 wounds out of the boomers, right? So that 9 goes up to, let's say you roll 4, that's 13. Yeah, you have brutal. It's gonna. I mean, it's not guaranteed by any.
No, for sure.
Imagination. And
Isn't it 4s and 5s because the boomers are only crush 1 and the.
Those are
those
are tyrants. They're D4.
Oh, the
those are
D4.
tyrants.
So that's 4s and 3s. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you for
4s and
correcting
3s,
me.
yeah.
Appreciate that.
You're right.
Yeah.
So yeah. So you're right.
No,
So
I
looking
think
more
it's
like
a
6
sneaker.
wounds on
That's
average.
like 6 wounds, yeah.
Yeah, so 6 wounds should seal the deal then. So
Yep.
okay. So back to kind of where we started there. So but again, melee 4, who knows, right? We got UB dice, I'm excited here.
Yep.
Okay, so Chris said, "Yep, we're going. We're doing it live." The rabble, I'm assuming, are going to move next. So
Yeah, they got to
thing
get
here
in.
is Chris is
He
now
did-
again. Even if he
did-
whiffs that unit on 6, Chris still actually has the win here, right? So
Right.
very good play, I think, being consistent, and then if at this point, if turn 7, things will be pretty dicey. But I like the way Chris is playing this at the end.
So what is he do? What's he looking at here?
Good question.
He might be
good
thinking about whether to flank the dragon, or whether it's worth even sending the goblin.
No, I think he just needed to do. Oh, he is double charging there. Look
He's
at
bringing
that.
goblins in.
Yeah.
Looks like yeah.
He's got.
Again,
You've got to, right? I mean,
I
he's
agree.
got it.
I'm a fan of you want that roll as close to Snake Eyes as possible, right? I mean, you can't count the number of times a 3 has been rolled this game alone, right? So, you don't want to leave it to just a 4 or 5. You want to get down to snakes.
Yeah.
And I think they are still just out of the dragons inspiring. From that
To
one.
talk to
Ooh,
Marrowway's question, you don't flank the dragon with the Noblars because it's just not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Where the 1 wound more to the tyrant just really, really seals the deal there and makes sure to pick them up. Not to mention the tyrants are higher unit strength.
Yeah, exactly. It's not impact, right? The impact of flanking the dragon is just not relevant to the game state, I think. So,
No. Like if this were an earlier turn where grounding the dragon was super critical for some reason, then absolutely throw him in there and smack the dragon once and put him on the ground. But it's the end of the game. So.
Looks like Chris agrees, and he's going to send in there. So,
yeah.
Which way is Grok facing right now?
He's facing kind of towards the dragon.
Yeah, down, right? Yeah.
Yeah, this way.
I think they were just checking to make sure the Noblars didn't somehow touch any piece of terrain.
Okay.
There was no question that they were going to make it in.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty much nothing to do with this one combat.
Yeah, we're looking at it here. So we said, why waste time? Here you go.
6 attacks hit from the.
Oh,
it's not great.
big whiff.
It's not great at all.
Only
Big
3
whiff.
wounds.
3 wounds.
So
3
let's see if
wounds
the
from Noblars.
Noblars bring it back up.
So that's
That-
12 plus brutal,
absolutely.
currently at 13.
1 hit with a Novlar.
Let's throw an
Neither,
extra
though.
wound. This is a tight combat here. So we got 4 wounds
13,
total.
So four to route.
Plus brutal.
Oh my god!
A
Brutal.
4.
Brutal.
You got the
Yeah,
brutal?
brutal. There is brutal there.
13, 14 plus 3, 17.
Yeah,
That actually is exactly enough to kill him. A
Did they
3
figure
kills
it out?
him with an extra
Yeah.
wound. That is
That's huge.
fantastic.
That's
That's their lesson why you don't
One
flank the dragon there, right?
And that's exactly why the Nobblers came in. Yes.
Right,
That one
right.
made all the
Insane that it
difference.
actually happened, but
Right?
yeah,
Red Goblin
that-
MVPs right there.
that's crazy, absolutely crazy that he rolled that. But again, things looking pretty good for Chris Fisher over here.
yeah.
Now they
He
just all
pivots everything to face the red dragon, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
everything just
And
turns
then
around
just roll
180
for turn 7.
Yep.
says balls in your court.
And,
But he gives a flank to the guy and says, "I don't care. Go ahead and flank him."
right.
No. Okay,
Alright.
sorry. Okay. I
Blue
throw the
dragon
flank at him. Why not taunt him, right? It's fitting.
Right. You're not going to charge him.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So we'll see what Chris gets the 7.
Yep. So bottom player always rolls, and
And
that's
And
me.
it's over.
he's over. So that is the final score here, guys.
That's a 6 to 2.
That's 6 to 2 unit strength. I think you said each unit counts for scoring under Northern Kings. Is that right, Mike?
So yeah, so it's 15 if you win, 5 if you lose, and then every scoring unit you have within 12 is just plus 1 point.
Gotcha. So Chris looks like he pick up 3 more
Plus
points
3.
there, and then he did happen to kill most of Kyle's army minus these 600 points here. So I'm sure he's going to get a few more points that way as well.
In the Siege Breakers and Grok is a nice chunk of change still on the board, just in that little group.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do have some attrition bonuses as well. I got the document here somewhere.
Yeah, Kyle just said they're going to tally up and head over here.
Cool.
Okay. Love to hear their thoughts on the game. Yeah. Very, very good game. Very.
Yeah, that was a really fun one to commentate because so back and
Definitely
forth.
quite a swingy and bloodbathy and all things you want to see out of a good game. So
Mhm.
yeah, and I
Also
expect
goes to
nothing
show
less.
that ogres with tight scenario play especially can really still force those fast dragons to be a little bit negated, right? I mean, Chris did a great job. He took those hits on the chin first 2 turns, but then after that really held the dragons back.
Absolutely, those chariots took the noble sacrifice, took one for the team, and he was just able to kind of play tight in the middle and just not give up anything else and just kind of just really grind out the win. So props to him.
Do we need to see the screen here for any reason, or can I get rid of it?
I think we can get rid of it.
Yep.
All right, so we're just waiting for them to do their math and come on over. That's going to be a pretty good win, pretty big win for Chris there.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like Chris would be in the. I know it's out of 25 with the way you're doing it, Dan. Right? So it should be. My guess is 21 or so for Chris, maybe 22.
Do you know how many points? What was it? 2,300?
They were playing 2,300.
2,300. That's right.
Up here, just a second.
And there have been some really big wins. The
Oh,
ladder
A
is
lot
on
of really big wins.
just a lot of 25s. Yeah, Dan, from the TOs of the tournament, have there been any upsets or any big wins that you guys weren't expecting out of the first round so far?
Well, there's a lot of players I actually don't know. So there's a lot of players that I
So they
do
posted
know
the
that
score
I
in
was
Universal
surprised to
Battle.
go down, right? So
They posted the score in Universal Battle. It's 10 to 22 with Chris winning with the 22, so that's a big one.
Definitely, yeah. No, I mean, it's up there. It keeps them competitive at the top of the bracket. So, again, Northern Kings is a very cool system. I have used it a couple times myself, and I like a lot of things about it. I think it definitely promotes the right incentives within the game.
Yeah, I was going to do that for Vanguard this year as well. I did Blackjack last year, which I still like and it's still really good. I just felt like let's change it up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Different is always interesting, and I think that's
Right.
one thing that Northern Kings offers that's very cool.
Yep. All right, looks like we got the players ready.
All right.
Hey guys.
Good night,
Hello.
guys. Good game.
Yeah.
So congrats, Chris.
That
Yeah.
was tight.
It was
Yes.
very tight.
You pulled it out, man. You,
Undefeated as ogres now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
1-0.
right.
Do you
Perfect
have any
100.
doubts in the game there? What the result was going to be?
Well,
Absolutely.
since I've been saying he's going to win since before our match started, I predicted it flawlessly. I said it would be a tight game, and then Chris would dominate, and he did.
Okay,
Not
so
in the
so in your mind, what was the big turning point of the game? Because it seemed like at first, Kyle, you were putting really good pressure on Chris, and then it kind of swung. When did
There
you
was-
feel that happening?
So obviously the turn 5 where I didn't waver Grok needing a 4, meant that I lost both my chaff pieces in one turn instead of trading one for one and let the dragon. Though wavering and or killing Grok was the time by play to get the dragon to where it can affect siege breakers from something besides the front. Like I don't care if I'm breathing or charging off to go play with boomers. Doing either one definitely hurt on 5. But really, I was afraid the game would sort of play out just like it did. Salamanders have a lot of cool toys, but they don't have an answer for boomers. So they sort of sit in a position. My stuff is basically that speed or you're chaffing through it. And if I commit all the tyrants over there, I'll never chip through the siege breakers and he'll win the mission anyway. So I almost have to play down. But Chris played the ogres really well. And I don't think, aside from Grok living, there was any particular like, oh, what a horrible dice roll. I mean, Chris snaked something that stayed alive, but in the end didn't really change gameplay.
There was a pretty awesome dice roll though when Grok just went off and took out a tyrant horde. That was
he's like, I'm gonna explode. There's a couple things, but overall it wasn't like, oh, woe is me, or I couldn't control the board. I just I think Chris played to the strengths of the list really well, and I brought 3 tyrant hordes that killed a couple of things and not enough things.
Right. And that building right in the middle of the table, how much did that affect your movement?
It really hurt me, I think, considerably, because Chris was smart and took the top. I've got an army of no Pathfinders sitting with these double forests in the building in the middle.
Yeah.
And I really had to split this combat line that I built, because the idea, you put 4 Ember Sprites, 3 Tyrant Hordes, and you support them with Ancients or a dragon, and you let the dragon be the mobile defense. That building basically said, ha, you have no middle. And it let my bigger base sizes definitely, I mean, ogres aren't small either, but I think Chris chose the right side. We'll put it that way. He chose top, and that was the right call.
Cool. And Chris, how were you feeling for the first half of the game? Did you feel like, this is all just part of the plan and you'll get him in the end, or were you worried?
I wasn't feeling good at all. Like when the dragon got up on the flank early and then the chariots took 2 dragons, I spent like 10 minutes. I wasn't 10 minutes, but I spent a lot of time making sure he couldn't put 2 dragons into those chariots. And then I was like, oh, let me just adjust this a little bit. And I didn't check after I made that adjustment. And then he was like, oh yeah, here's 2 dragons, and insult to injury, here's some sprites too.
Yeah.
So that was, I wasn't feeling good at that point. The next turn helped to even it out when Grok went off. When Grok went off and took off the Tyrant Horde, and then also I really needed that Chariot Horde when they took off the Ancients in one go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was a little bit risky. I felt like Kyle was saying in the game, like that was my best chance to take one off in one go, because I had Thunderous
3,
crushing 1.
Yeah, we commented that it's not very often that those chariots need actually Thunderous from a hill.
Yeah.
It was nifty. And I think I got lucky. I mean, I think I just got them, right? So
yeah.
Yep.
But I wasn't feeling good until those 2 things.
Cool.
And even then, it was tight right down to the end.
It was all part of your plan. I know it was.
Well, it was a great game to watch. Certainly.
So,
it was fun. Any parting thoughts from the players?
I encourage you guys to have your opponents pick your army. I've been doing it for all 3 call to arms now, this being the 4th one, so all 4, I guess. I don't think I've ever actually picked the army I'm going to play unless my opponent specifically said, I don't care, play something you're practicing for a tournament. Chris just challenged me, so I was able to publicly shame him by saying, you get to pick my army. But part of getting better at this game is understanding other stuff. So like I told Chris, I've played Salamanders like 6 times. I've now lost 6 times. But each time the loss is a little less embarrassingly bad. So I'm getting there.
Great.
Someone pick goblins for me, maybe. I know how they work.
Not gonna happen.
No one's ever chose goblins for me. It's strange.
I wonder why.
All right. Thanks again, guys, for letting us look over your shoulders while you're playing your first round. And congrats, Chris, on the win, and good luck in the rest of the tournament to both of you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks,
Again, Kyle.
All right. Lastly, I'd like to thank Dan Miner for stepping in and doing a little guest commentary for us. It was great having you.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
Yep. Thank you, Dan. Thanks for hosting this, co-hosting this. This is really cool. Look forward to more of these in the future.
Yeah, and thanks for running this awesome, enormous tournament that we got going on.
Oh, you can thank
Exactly.
Adam Padley for that. I'm just, like I said, I'm just the data monkey.
Okay, Pat. Yeah, Pat. Well, pass it on for us. And if in the next few rounds there are any matches that you guys see that you think are particularly interesting, let us know. I think Tom Ennis actually suggested that we cover this one for the first round. So yeah, if you guys have any particularly interesting matchups coming up that you know of, feel free to let us know, and maybe we'll set up another one of these.
Tom's a great person to ask because he knows a lot of the UK players and North American players. So
Great.
He'd be a really good person to ask for that for sure.
Awesome. Well, we might do that. So thanks so much for stopping by, Dan, and we'll see you down the road.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome. All right, guys. So I think this went pretty well. I think we'll probably keep doing these if people are game. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. This was a lot more fun than I thought it would be. If I'm being honest, Alex sort of had to like make an agreement with me to get me commentating on here. He sort of called me late one night as I was playing video games. It was like, "Are you free Sunday?" And I was like, "Why?"
Exactly.
Why?
That's why I pick on you.
Why do I want to be free?
Exactly. It's
Cool.
So
Schedule permitting, we'll try to schedule a few more of these for at least for the Called Arms tournament, and if people really like them, then we might try to make this a long-term thing. If you're interested in maybe jumping in on one of these, let me know. And as always, if you have any ideas for articles for Dash 28, you can send those to editor@dash28.org. Otherwise, you can check out all the stuff we've written on dash28.org.
Mm-hmm.
Until next time, I'm Mike Atkins saying goodbye for myself and Jake Cherapika and Alex Chavez. Have fun gaming.
All right.
Stay safe out there, and
Yeah,
we'll
thanks
see you
for
next
watching,
time.
everyone.
All right. See ya.